on Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the library. A new poll finds 81% of young people think the economy is terrible. Actually, most Americans of all ages focused on affordability agree. This graduation season, how are you or your kids faring in Trump's economy? CNN's John King will join us on a growing rift in the MAGA coalition over affordability and foreign wars, and the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts, Carol Rose, on what the SCOTUS mifepristone ruling means for abortion access in Massachusetts.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then in the second hour, it's NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey on a tough few weeks for Boston's men's sports scene. Then we'll end the show with you as attempts today climb to unseasonable highs. We'll channel Canter and Jim Browdy enjoying his café au lait in the Champs-Élysées and talk about the joys of dining and drinking outside. Weighing next on BPR live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says the U.S. effort to open the Strait of Hormuz is a separate operation that does not affect the ceasefire with Iran. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports.
At a news briefing, Hegseth said U.S. forces have opened a safe passage for tankers through the strait. He said the Iranian boats that have attacked ships there and the U.S. destruction of those boats doesn't cross the threshold of restarting major combat operations and don't mean an end to the ceasefire, which might trigger a need for congressional approval to continue the war. Hegseth said the U.S. mission to protect a free shipping lane was temporary and other countries should take over.
We hope South Korea would step up, just like we hope Japan would step up, just like we hope Australia would step up, just like we hope Europe steps up. But we're not waiting for them to do so. We're looking to set the conditions to hand to them.
Iran's state broadcaster claimed that its control of the strait has, quote, intensified. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
The United Arab Emirates says it is defending against a new set of Iranian missiles and drones. This follows yesterday's barrage into the UAE. The Emirati government said 3 people were wounded yesterday in a drone strike on an oil facility. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine fired missiles deep into Russian territory last night. This comes as Ukraine also declares a temporary ceasefire starting tomorrow through Saturday. It comes ahead of Russia's celebration marking the end of World War II. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports Russia also declared a temporary truce.
Writing on social media, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his proposed truce would start on midnight May 6th, a couple of days before the one offered by the Kremlin. Speaking in the Armenian capital, Yerevan, on Monday, Zelensky said Russian leaders are not including military equipment in the upcoming Victory Day parade in Moscow.
And they fear drones may buzz over Red Square. This is telling.
Previous attempts at temporary ceasefires have failed, with Russia and Ukraine accusing each other of violations. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News.
For now, the abortion pill mifepristone can still be prescribed online and sent through the mail. That's after a temporary order from the Supreme Court. The state of Louisiana is suing, arguing that access to the medication should be restricted. Louisiana severely limits abortion, and it wants to stop residents from obtaining abortion medication from out-of-state providers. KFF Health News correspondent Julie Rovner says the issue could have political effects.
Anti-abortion groups have been increasingly vocal about their frustration that the president hasn't done more to limit, if not outlaw, the abortion pill. And the telehealth option has basically allowed women to get around most state bans in the 20 states that now have them.
Julie Rovner reporting. You're listening to NPR News.
And from the GBH Radio Newsroom in Boston, I'm Judy Ewell. The state's largest teachers' unions are endorsing the grassroots movement to protect updated gun laws. The Massachusetts Teachers Association said the 2024 update of gun laws provides common-sense protections that help prevent gun violence, and they said that's essential to protect the law for the safety of students, educators, and school communities. The American Federation of Teachers agrees. Groups including the Gun Owners Action League oppose restrictions on ghost guns, the stronger red flag law, and a ban on guns at polling places and government buildings. They're asking voters to help them repeal the law in November. New England's grid operator says residents across the region are using more energy. GBH's Hannah Shonetry reports.
Transportation and heat. According to the regional grid manager, ISO New England, the electrification of both is projected to drive up energy demand by 9% over the next decade. It's also changing when that demand is highest. ISO spokesperson Mary Kate Colapietro says historically, New England has consumed more energy in the hot summer months.
But by 2035, we're forecasting that the winter demand could nearly match the demand that we see in the summer, and that's primarily driven by the adoption of electric heating pumps.
Late last year, Massachusetts and 4 other New England states launched programs to speed up heat pump installations, partly as an effort to reduce the use of fossil fuels. Hannah Shinatri, GBH News.
A Tuesday warm-up with strong winds for some. Mostly sunny, highs to 80. Southwest wind gusts of 23 miles an hour. Increasing clouds tonight. Lows in the 50s. Cloudy, rain tomorrow. Right now 70 in Boston. This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Eric and Wendy Schmidt through the Schmidt Family Foundation, working toward a healthy, resilient, secure world for all. On the web at theschmidt.org. This is NPR.
You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Wow. Must have been left over from the Kentucky Derby. Anyway, C.L. Frenari, the garden lady, she is great. She's going to be with us here tomorrow at the library talking about hydrangeas. I love hydrangeas. And State Auditor Diana DiZoglio and Henry Winkler, fondly remembered as the Fonz, is going to be with us on Thursday. Then on May 12th, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Joy Campbell, joins us here at the library. That's Tuesday, again, May 12th. Hello, Jim.
Can I ask you 2 questions to
Yes.
get started? Are they giving away free hot dogs somewhere in the neighborhood?
Oh, you're upset because we don't have a
So
big
thank
crowd
you
today.
all for coming.
Yeah.
It's a rather sparse
It is.
showing, I should say.
Well, you know, we had a
Is it
mob.
something I said?
We had a mob scene here last week.
What's
so
that got
maybe
to do
this
with
is- Well,
today?
maybe that means that people came last week.
Nothing
They're
to
not
do with
gonna
it.
come
Can I
in.
also
Okay.
say
Nothing
something
to do
just
with
to
it.
get it out of my system?
Go ahead, Jim.
As the news is playing, is Pete Hegseth the slimiest, most duplicitous, incompetent, abusive public official in history?
We know what his mother said.
Exactly. I mean, it is just, we're going to talk to John King about it. It is scandalous. In any case, speaking of the administration, Trump made history in 2024 when he became the first man elected president who had, 1, been convicted of multiple felonies, and 2, had been found liable by a jury of sexual abuse. One of the largest motivators for voters to ignore those things was affordability. Here's candidate Trump.
Prices will come down. You just watch. They'll come down, and they'll come down fast, not only with insurance, with everything. We will drill, baby, drill. We're going to bring energy prices down.
Yep.
Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down, and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
That's great news. That's a lot of promise for a man who's chosen to throw the global economy in crisis with his war in Iran, among other things. New polling finds that more than 70% of adults feel economic conditions are getting worse. Listen to this one. A whopping 81% of young people think the economy is doing badly or terribly. So unless you're loaded and making more money gaming the prediction markets or crypto, whatever, you are screwed. New graduates can't find jobs. Even casual socializing has become a luxury of the rich, given the cost of food and entertainment. So our lines are open at 877-301-8978. I guess it's another one of our economic check-ins. How are you feeling about the economy that Trump seems to be hell-bent on destroying? Gas prices are up roughly 50% since this war of his began because of the cost of fertilizer and diesel gas. Prices at grocery stores are way up, at restaurants. And getting back to that 81% of young people, if you're about to graduate and thinking, well, that was a waste of money, what are the job prospects for you out there? Either you or parents, if you have a kid who's just graduating, what are you hearing? Essentially, it's a discussion about your personal economy and how you're doing. 877-301-8970. Oh, and if you had tickets on Spirit Airline, that is an issue, even though theoretically you're getting your money back at some point. allegedly in the fairly imminent future, not only are the prices going to go up for the airlines that continue, but they're going to run out of fuel, they're suggesting, a lot of people. So essentially, with this totally irresponsible, ill-planned, uncoordinated war, not to mention the tariffs that preceded it, Trump is not only destroying the economy of the people who elected him in this country, but the economy of virtually everybody around the world.
Well, I think it's really scary. It is May. This is graduation season. People are graduating from college, and I've heard anecdotally, and what you see nationwide underscores it, that a lot of kids are getting out of very expensive colleges where they've spent, at $60,000, $70,000, $90,000 a year at some of these places to go. They're heavily in debt, or their parents are heavily in debt, and they're coming out of college. Oftentimes you try to get the job lined up, before you do get out of college, and they're not able to find jobs, which is really, really upsetting. We've heard a lot of talk about how AI is taking away a lot of the entry-level jobs that kids have had before, but there are all these anecdotes. Here's from the New York Times, somebody talking about this one person who had applied for more than 100 jobs, somebody else more than 200 jobs. Somebody talked about how what they do at night is they doom scroll on Indeed, the job placement place, looking at all the jobs they're not going to get and they're not replied to when they apply for them. So, it's pretty scary because you're going to start paying back those student loans, and a lot of people are heavily in debt. And of course, the people that went into college thinking they come out as coders, they trained in college for something that they're not going to be able to use, at least right now. So I think it's pretty scary.
Well, and also, clearly for college grads and people just entering the workforce, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Just getting back to this gas thing, which I'm obsessed with. Obviously, the diesel fuel thing has direct impact on what things cost at grocery stores, restaurants, cafes, that sort of thing. But just let's talk about gas prices for the moment. They've gone up 50% since the war was started on February 28th. Yeah. So if your car has, let's just take a number, has a 20-gallon tank, and you fill it, once a week? That's $30 more a week. That's $1,500. What are you laughing about?
I'm thinking about, I was driving home. I went down to visit one of my kids this weekend. So I'm driving home. I'm with my sister, and we stop at a gas station to fill up the car. Yeah. And it was $4.50 to fill up the car. So while
$4.50 a gallon.
$4.50 a gallon, which was a lot. But anyway, so I go into the car because I'm driving. I want to get a pack of gum. I haven't bought a pack of gum in a while. I go in with $5 to buy the pack of gum, and the guy in the whatever it was, the mini mart or the 7-Eleven, he said, "Oh, it's $6.20." I said,
for the gum?
Oh, I said $6.20. So I went back to the car and got some more money. And then I come in, and there's this guy in there who's gotten out of this beat up car. It's a big car. It's a big minivan, and he's filling up the minivan. And the back of the bumper. You're talking about my car. The back of the bumper is falling off. It's all dented. He's in there screaming at the guy in the mini mart about how much everything costs. I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to start shooting. I better get out of here really quick. Overwhelmed about the cost of everything. And it was just a little anecdote that underscored people's frustrations. Can you believe it was $6 for a pack of gum? Maybe they were ripping me off there at that mini mart, but I thought that was
like 300 pieces in it?
It's one of those things with the like the sugarless chiclets in it. I don't know.
I love those.
I thought it'd be $3.
Does anybody call them chiclets anymore?
I don't know what they call them.
People from our
But anyway,
generation.
they were my $5 bill did not cover it, Jim.
Okay, so we're doing an economic check-in with all of you, and particularly if you're a young person or you're a parent of a young person who's just about to graduate, what are the job prospects looking like? Can you imagine being a young person, 18, 20, 25, and 4 out of 5 of them, which essentially is everybody, 81% is essentially everybody, saying the economy is bad or terrible. And you know what the impact of that is beyond the economy itself and how it affects you in your pocketbook? Can you imagine the psyche of a 20-year-old person who, as you say, just spent a huge amount of money to go to college, is worried about their jobs, thinks the economy is terrible? What kind of psychological toll does that exact on somebody who's trying to enter the work world?
According to the story, there's across the country there are thousands and thousands and thousands of so-called traumatized seniors whose job searches have become a disheartening struggle of resumes, rejection, and uncertainty. And they're trying to get jobs at pizza joints and at baristas at coffee shops, and that's not working out either.
Can I make a suggestion, by the way, to raise their, to get them out of their depression?
What?
If you are looking for a job unable to find one, there are a ton of seats here today at the library. Just come and enjoy yourself here.
Listen to this one. This is from Pamela. My husband lost his job in March, started a new, better one today. That's great. But we had to go on COBRA to continue our health care.
People know what that is. That's a continuation you can buy when your health insurance expires.
Because he won't be covered right away at the new job. Guess how much it's costing her for the health care on COBRA? $3,750 a month.
A month?
For the family.
It's a lot of money.
Wow. And then somebody else just said, my one joy is someone with a chronic illness is walking. I drive to a scenic trail about 30 minutes away. I can no longer afford to take that walk because of the gas prices. And then Linda, the Dane from Warwick, says she's flying to Europe in 2 days. She's hoping she'll be able to afford to get back.
Let's go to Sarah in Springfield. You're first on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, you guys are awesome.
Thanks.
I just want to say, very frustrating that Republicans keep screwing the economy up, like in 2008, and the Democrats have to clean it up. And they can't make the case to voters to get out of that cycle. This should be a slam dunk.
Well, you know,
I'm
you should
just saying the voters
Go ahead.
went ahead and voted. They voted for this situation, and they're all shocked. But the fact is, we've been here before with the Republican Party doing what it does, putting very wealthy people and corporate donors first, and the American people last. And the Democrats can't seem to educate the public in time for elections to avoid going through the same thing over and over again.
Well, you know that old tired line in politics, the only thing elected officials stand for is re-election? I mean, that is the primary desire, and despite their fear of Trump, I'm not even so sure it's so much catering to the rich anymore. I think they are so scared of Donald Trump. And the question we're going to ask John King, if you stay tuned for a little bit, Sarah, is there a breaking point where people realize they're going to lose the one job they care about most, namely being a member of Congress, of the House, or the Senate? And even if it's not based on principle, I think there's going to be a break soon. We shall see. Sarah, thanks for your call. We appreciate it.
I'm not as kind to the Democrats as Sarah. I think the Democrats are going to get their act together because they haven't been good
She
enough.
wasn't kind to them at all. She says they hadn't educated the public well enough about who the Republicans are.
Well, but they haven't done enough when they've been in power to ease the affordability issues either. I mean, Biden was talking about Bidenomics during much of his time, and people are saying, what do you mean? Bidenomics. I'm struggling here. I think there's been a big and frankly,
how much is climate change costing the economy? And uncalculable amounts of. Is it uncalculable or incalculable amounts of money?
A lot.
Well, who dealt better with that issue?
He did.
Than Joe Biden.
He did. He absolutely did. And before that, we had Obamacare, which has helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now,
so healthcare and the environment.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not saying Biden was not in denial. I mean, he was almost as bad as Trump in terms of this things are fine kind of thing. Donald Trump is giving a speech yesterday. This guy is such a fraud. Oil is, what is it, $110 a barrel or something like that, which is really high. You know how he deflects that? He says, everybody was saying that oil was going to go up to $300 a barrel when the war started. Can you name for me the people who said oil was going to $300 a barrel?
Nobody said that.
Nobody. And people said gas was going to go 7, 8. Nobody said that either. The level at which oil and gas is now at is unaffordable. I mean, that's the bottom line. What?
Here's a texter who can feel my pain.
Go ahead.
Dang. Imagine going into a store with $5 and finding you can't afford a pack of gum. That's tough.
Listen to this guy. I'm 32 years old, an engineer with 10 years experience, got a home with a 4% mortgage in 2022. I feel like I got the last lifeboat before the economy sank. Even then, listen to this is the psychological thing. Every day I'm afraid of getting laid off, never getting a salary this high again. I don't even know what advice to give to younger people anymore. I mean, how horrible is that to live with that? The person's got a good job, a mortgage at an affordable rate, and is afraid the whole thing's going to crater. I mean, that is torture.
I think a lot of people feel that way, that they managed to get their coding jobs whenever they got right out of college, but now they're 10 years or 15 years into the job market, and they're very, very, look at those places going to lay off all these thousands of people, these big companies, Amazon, Facebook, Meta, they're talking about layoffs all the time.
Yeah, but Bezos and his wife looked great at the Met Gala last night. Let me tell you, you know, the other thing that is driving me nuts is that every day Trump says as soon as this war is over, which probably is never going to happen, prices are going to plummet immediately. His own cabinet members are saying that it's going to be into next year that most of these elevated prices are going to continue at. So even his own people can't, with a straight face, tell the same lie he is. Claire and Amherst, hi.
Hi there. How are you guys doing?
Never better. Hi.
Hi there. I'm a young person. I'm 24. I recently graduated college. Myself and many of my friends, we all have bachelor's degrees, and it's just a running joke for people in my generation that we're not going to be able to buy houses. We're not going to ever be able to have mortgages. And I think that the way we cope is just by being slightly nihilistic about it. Like, we understand that that's kind of how things are, and we wish that wasn't the way it was. But yeah, no, it's not uncommon for people my age to be applying for hundreds and up to thousands of jobs. I have friends with spreadsheets that are like, 200, 300, 400 jobs long, where they're just applying and hearing nothing. And that's pretty consistent for my generation. It's not something we're surprised by anymore.
And Claire, what does that do to the psyche of you and your friends? Beyond, we understand the economic impact as best we can. How do you deal with that?
I think that we all just have to laugh. There's nothing else we can do. And we have each other, and we have to, look towards community and things that we have in our control, and hope that things turn around so that one day we can build a life similar to the people in our generation, in the generations before us.
You have a hell of an attitude. I admire you, Claire. Thank you. Good luck to you and your friends.
That's a great call, Claire.
Thanks.
And I think I've heard that a lot of times, too. And the joke among a lot of parents, as well, you can come home and live with mom and dad for like a year or two and save up your money so you can get some kind of down payment. But for some reason, a lot of kids don't want to go home and live with mom and dad, so that isn't an option for them. But it's almost come to that. It's the only way you're going to be able to do it because rents are so high. If you're shelling out, $3,000 a month for rent, you're not going to be able to save anything to buy anything.
Is Jimmy McMillan still alive? Jimmy, the rent is too damn
high.
McMillan? Is it McMillan, I think?
Yeah, I think it's
Anonymous
McMillan.
texter, I'm not sure if it's appropriate to mention, but I've heard a lot of young people are doing online sites like OnlyFans and other sites just to survive and make money because they can't do it with minimum wage jobs. Horrible. Yeah. Brad in San Francisco. Hi.
Hey, good morning. I was hearing Marjorie talk about paying $4.50 for gas.
Yeah.
My tank is down to an eighth of a tank. I pull in at $7.05 a gallon. Cost me $121.57 to fill up my tank.
Oh my God!
What? Why? I should know this, Brad, but I don't. Why is gas higher?
So much higher in
California? Do you know?
They charge 60 cents a gallon in state taxes, which is what the oil companies always point to. But it's just because they can get away with it. They've been doing this forever. We always have the highest gas prices.
Yeah, that's really brutal. $7.05. Geez, Brad.
What did you say? $120 to fill your tank?
$121.57, and I had an eighth of a tank in the car.
By the way, it's not just. I just looked up while you're speaking. It can't just be the tax, though, because Massachusetts, ours is almost 30 cents, and our gas is $2.50 cheaper than yours is. So there's something else going on that.
Well,
but whatever it is, it's just unbelievable.
I think it's fair to say, too, Brad, that the oil companies are making a killing at this particular juncture, are they not?
Oh, yeah, and they're used to it. They basically they make huge contributions in the state legislature. But you know what? I take some solace. And the fact is, Jim always likes to say, at least we know Iran's not going to get a nuclear weapon, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm saying that a lot. Hey, Brad, before you go ahead, do you have to drive as much as you drive, or is part of that choice?
No, I have a 25-mile commute to my job in Vallejo now. I'm the interim economic development director, so I have to worry about finding jobs for all these young people that are getting out of college.
Hey, Brad, stay in touch with us. That was a great call and also expanded our horizon a bit. Thank you for your call and your perspective.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Rob from Lowell says, wait a minute. I saw Republican Senator Tim Scott and Steve Scalise, the representative, saying gas prices were really good compared to when Biden was president.
Well, of course.
And some people actually believe them. I mean, I think people do believe them. It's one of the issues they believe. Listen to this one. Things are collapsing. My son-in-law was laid off in November from a job where funding was cut by the current administration. My daughter was laid off last week from a job she had for 14 years. I worry about them so much. Someone mentioned COBRA costs. They'll be facing this next month.
You know, can I get back to the Biden thing you read for a second?
Yeah.
You know, everybody in the cabinet for Trump does that. They always say, well, this was higher under Biden. This was higher under Biden. That may work when things are just modestly unaffordable. But I would say unless you're a hardcore denialist kind of person, don't you think the reaction is, even if that's true, I can't afford to live today. So maybe, I don't remember, maybe it was worse 2 years ago. But the issue is today, it cost me in San Francisco a $7, whatever the guy just said, $120-some to fill my tank. That argument is so tired and so old, which is why 81% of young people feel the economy is bad or terrible. Listen to this, an anonymous texter. Inflation, affordability. Do you know how much it costs to get tickets to your show now? No wonder there's no one at the library. It's not no one there's some wonderful people at the library. It's just not a huge crowd that we're used to here.
Jim,
what?
You should point out that there are no tickets. You can come
They're
here.
not?
No, there are no tickets. You can come here for free.
This is free?
And stay for as little or as long as you like. Yes, it
So where are the other
absolutely is
people
free.
if it's free?
I don't know.
If it's free and you have the Newsfeed Cafe and
I
you
don't
have
know.
us.
They loved us last
what's
week.
The
This
deal?
week they don't love us
Let's
at all,
go to
Jim.
Stephen.
Listen to this. Here's somebody who says, going into the trades, putting my degree on pause. The outlook there is at least decent. White-collar work is looking dismal. So there's someone who's dropping out.
Hey, the trainer of the Kentucky Derby winner was in pre-med.
Pre-med. I know, and she went to, and she started out. We're going to talk about this with Trenni.
Low level.
Just walking the horses.
I know.
Just walking the horses after a run. That was it. Cleaning out the stalls, and now she's the first woman to win a Kentucky Derby. I think there was a woman who won the Belmont Stakes.
It was one other Triple Crown winner. Yeah. Let's go to Stephen in Melrose. You got a minute, Stephen. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to say, I'm 32, maybe 10 years up from these kids who are struggling. And I feel like I could tell them to make all the same choices I made, and they wouldn't get that good result. I feel like at the last lifeboat out before everything sank. And it's this whole K-shaped economy thing, right? It's just, I got a good mortgage rate before they went up, and it's just watching the unfairness of it, I think, is sad. And, all around, I got this good job, but I'm watching layoffs left and right. And I'm terrified, even with where I am, I get laid off. Maybe I never get back to the salary and I'm on the lower rung of the K. It's tough. And I'd really like to see national focus on this affordability. Like the housing prices are crazy. The food prices are crazy. The energy prices are crazy. And when are we going to do something about it systemically? And that's my comment.
Boy, your comment was perfect and painful at the same time. Thank you,
Well,
Stephen.
I think a lot of the problem is we're in an oligarchy right now, and the Democrats take millions from this donor class as well. There's a lot of money to go to Democrats. There's a lot of money going to Republicans, and I hope the Democrats can get off their rear ends and actually do something about affordability instead of just talking about affordability all the time, which they've been talking about forever.
Someone just said people can't afford the gas to get to the library. By the way, Marjorie will pick you up. Are we at the library tomorrow?
We're at the library tomorrow.
If you call Marjorie today, she'll pick you up in the morning
I will pick
and bring
you
here. So.
It's terrible. I mean, what about the guy, 32 years old? He's worried he's not going to...
That guy right there.
He bought a house, and now he's worried he's going to get laid off. And
No,
not be
that's
able to
two
pay his mortgage.
32-year-olds. It was a texter, and the guy just called. It's just incredible.
Okay.
But that was depressing.
Hope we cheered you up with that one. I'm going to cheer you up some more with CNN's John King, who's going to join us right after this, the chief national correspondent for CNN. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Henry Santoro in for Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, Keith Lockhart. He spent 3 decades leading the Boston Pops in both tradition and surprise, and orchestra at home with John Williams, Broadway, gospel, and rock. This spring, America's Orchestra returns with a spring season that stretches from Star Wars to St. Vincent. Keith Lockhart joins us to talk about what keeps the Pops popping. That and more is on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Speakeasy Stage, presenting Swept Away. 4 New Bedford whalers must confront who they are and what they've done as they fight to survive a shipwreck. With music by the Avett Brothers. Now through May 23rd. SpeakeasyStage.com.
And White Flower Farm, a mail-order plant nursery in Connecticut, offering garden plants, growing supplies, and gifts for gardeners. More at whiteflowerfarm.com.
Welcome back to BPR, GBH, and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. C.L. Fornari, the garden lady, is with us here at the library tomorrow. She's great, actually.
She's great.
Henry Winkler, who is he, Marjorie?
The Fonz.
He is, he's giving the commencement speech at Emerson, right?
Yep.
Emerson grad. He'll be with us on Thursday, as will State Auditor Diana DiZoglio and her lawyer to give us an update about what happens tomorrow at the state's highest court, where there's going to be an oral argument around a case around the auditing in the legislature. The Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, joins us at the library on the 12th. The mayor joins us at the library on the 27th. We will have a governor date in May shortly. Joined now on Zoom by John King, Chief National Correspondent for CNN, man behind the great reporting project all over the map. Hello, John King.
Happy Tuesday.
And to you.
John, great to talk to you on this election day, but I am confused a lot about the war. I'm sorry to put you on the spot all the time, but do you have a sense of where we are right now with Iran?
No. Attacks have resumed. Iran launching some missiles and unarmed aircraft into the UAE yesterday. Some tensions in the Hormuz Strait. The White House says the ceasefire is still holding, or at least they hope the ceasefire still holds. But there's a lot of talk that things could escalate, and I've seen some reporting from our national security team that Israel is preparing both to back up the United States if necessary in the Iran way, and also perhaps even more in the Lebanon-Hezbollah thing. So it seems like this very tense and fragile ceasefire has become even more frayed. And I think the next 24 hours seem a key moment as to whether you can calm things down or whether things escalate again.
You know, John, as sick as you are of Marjorie asking you to explain what the state of the war is, I think you're even sicker of this question. In all the years you've been covering Washington, this morning, I'm asking if you ever heard anything like this. The question to Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, in the last 24 hours or so, Iran's fired at us, we fired at Iran. Just going to ask you more directly, is the ceasefire over? Hegseth says, no, the ceasefire is not over. And this is a good one. Ultimately, this is a separate and distinct project. What is that? And is any defense secretary ever, it's just, I'm not saying there have not been duplicitous defense secretaries. What is this guy, what is a separate and distinct project? What is that?
To quote another defense secretary who we thought maybe was redefining the language cleverly, there are knowns and unknowns. And there are known unknowns, I think. Look, I will say this, that you have had times in history, including recent history, between Israel and Hezbollah or Israel and Hamas. You have had in other conflicts where there are, where there's a ceasefire in place or some cessation of hostilities in place, where there are isolated incidents. That does happen. It does happen, and you can say, either there was a miscommand or a misunderstanding, or somebody temporarily violated the ceasefire, and then quickly everybody said, calm down. So I wouldn't use the language that Secretary Hegseth used. Is it possible that they think they can tamp this down and keep it from spiraling out of control? I assume that's what he meant. It's not a separate incident. It's part of an ongoing war. It's in the same place. It's the same countries. It's the same parties. And it's the same tension and trouble. But as you know, he does not like to be asked questions. He does not like to be asked questions except, how awesome are you, sir? How great are things, sir? And so he gets very testy when he's asked questions by members of Congress or members of the media who don't start it with, wow, everything is so wonderful and you're so great. Can you tell me something even better?
Okay, can we move on to the elections
Sure.
today and what they may? I guess there's elections in Michigan and Ohio, where you just spent some time talking to
Indiana.
voters there, in Indiana. So Are they significant? What are we looking for? Or what are you looking for?
Indiana state legislative race is actually, to me, the most fascinating in that if you remember, that was one of the states that refused to go along with Trump's redistricting plans. A number of Indiana Republicans, conservatives, true conservatives, said, we don't do this in the middle of the day. We're not going to do this, that we do it every 10 years. We're not going to spring this on our voters. It's not the way we operate. Maybe we'll do it when the time comes, but we're not doing it now. And Trump wants retribution, so he has supported primaries against those members, mostly of the state Senate in Indiana. So here's a test of MAGA clout, right? Next week after we have the Thomas Massie race in Kentucky, this is a more isolated, but that the president of the United States is so mad at members of the Indiana state legislature that he would primary them for retribution because they wouldn't go along with his redistricting. A test of MAGA clout and their local brands. Some other interesting ones in Ohio. Vivek Ramaswamy does not face real opposition in the Republican primary. He will be the Republican nominee for governor.
Yeah.
For governor, but let's see if there's a protest vote. When I was out there, a lot of Republicans are like, we don't really think this guy's one of us. So we'll see if there's anything to that. The Republicans have tried 3 or 4 cycles in a row now to get the Democratic Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur in the Toledo area. They've redrawn her district to make it even tougher for her. She's a survivor, but this will be another tough race for her this year, even though it seems like a good climate for the Democrats. So they'll pick a Republican nominee to run against her. There are a few other things going on, Michigan State Senate races. So it's an interesting, to me, the most interesting question, though, is this Trump retribution campaign, because Indiana is the big stage for it, and there are more examples of it down the road.
John, having been obsessed with far more than I should with polling and learned a lot from you, it seems that right-wrong direction is a pretty good indicator of where the American people are. I'm right so far, right? That's a pretty important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so 2/3 of the people, give or take a few numbers in recent polls, said we're going in the wrong direction. This is another question we ask you almost every week. If I'm a Republican in the House and not in a 100% safe district, I got to be talking to my people about what is the moment where I got to summon the courage to say, okay, I'm going to separate an ounce from the President of the United States and say maybe we have to vote on this war. Gas prices out of control, diesel even more out of control, fertilizer costs, etc. Is there any sign that moment is coming, or are they just praying that the war is going to end tomorrow and Trump is right, every price is going to plummet the day after?
Well, most of them know that even if the war ended tomorrow, prices would not plummet immediately. It doesn't work that way. We're going to have high gas prices for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Will they come down some? I hope so. Not for a political statement, but for people's pocketbooks out there who have to do it. We all would hope that. I don't think that's a partisan statement or me taking sides to say we hope the war ends and people stop dying, and we hope the gas prices come down. I think every American can say that. But it doesn't work that way. They won't come down that fast. They may come down some. Look, Jim, the Republicans are in a real box here because a lot of them, the whole war powers thing has gone off the rails for Democratic and Republican administrations now for decades. But in terms of breaking with Trump, it's a huge risk for many of them, because if you decide I have to get some Democratic votes, or I have to get non-Trump Republican votes, or hold your nose Trump Republican votes who don't want to vote for me now, who might actually be open to sending Trump a message and having a Democratic Congress because they're mad at Trump for whatever reason. You want to get them, so you think you have to break with Trump. But then Trump turns on you, even if it's past your primary, or if it's too late for somebody to get on the ballot in your primary. What if the Trump base doesn't show up for you? And so Trump puts Republicans in a really horrible position, especially the Republicans in the truly purple areas who have to reach out to independents and maybe some moderate or conservative Democrats, but also keep whatever size of the Trump base is in their district. And for some people, that's 20%. For some people, that's 40%. And so depending on where you go on the map, he constantly puts them in almost untenable positions where they in a midterm year, it's all about your base first. It has to be your foundation, is turn out your people. And so they're afraid to break with him.
Well, Marjorie and I have been saying this since Trump won, is we never understood why, for example, disenchanted members of his cabinet, when there was actually not allowed to be, but there was some disagreement, if they were going to speak out publicly, why didn't just 6 or 7 of them get together and do it en masse? We said the same about media executives, university presidents. Why don't members of the House, for example, Republicans who are worried about their futures, hold a press conference with 27 of them there? I mean, what is Trump going to lead a political campaign in 27 districts practically overnight to ruin your life and take your job away? I mean, there seems to be no strategic initiative on the Republican side to stand up, protect the American people, and in turn potentially protect themselves. Is that naive?
A bit. In today's world, it is, sadly, in the sense that, look, the history of Trump, he's going after 7 or 8 Indiana, state legislators, Republicans. 20 members of Congress stood up. There's every reason to believe Trump would go after them as well. And he is the leading voice in the party. He has made it the party of Trump, not the party of them. It's the party of him, and they happen to be in it. And sometimes he thinks, and this is not true in all cases, but he thinks at his pleasure. He thinks you're in his party at his pleasure, and that he can bully you out if he chooses. So that's one of the tests today. I get your point, but I just think that, what in our recent history gives you any leave? If you do look at, you have a couple of these Republican women standing up about the men and the mistreatment of women in the Congress. You had a number of people, Democrats and Republicans, stand up on the Epstein files. So there have been some small examples of this. I think as we move through the calendar year, especially let's say some of those Indiana guys survive. Let's say a majority of them survive. I'm not saying that. I don't know what's going to happen tonight in Indiana. But if you start to see more clues that Trump's grip is weakening, then perhaps you'll see more courage. But I would not bet on that right now.
So, John King, I don't think we've had a chance to talk to you about Graham Plattner, who's running for the Senate in Maine. Janet Mills, a recently popular governor, was losing big time to him in the polls, like 20 points and stuff, and he's got some controversies. The Nazi tattoo, which he said he didn't know was a Nazi tattoo, and he said some things about sexual assault victims. I mean, he's got a Twitter past there. But he
This is for Susan Collins' seat. This is the Democratic side of the Susan Collins race.
So she was Chuck Schumer's choice, and the voters up there had no interest. So can we read anything into that?
Yes, you can read a lot into that. I think that voters in both parties, I do think there's some Trump wariness, that Trump is now the Republican establishment. And I do think there's some wariness from voters, not necessarily from the elected officials yet. But you certainly have in the Democratic Party this generational and then anti-Washington. Let's not have more 80-year-old candidates, thank you. We just lost a presidential election because of the decline of President Biden, and the Democratic base is not interested in listening to 80-year-old Chuck Schumer tell them who their candidate is. Does that mean Graham Plattner can beat Susan Collins? That's a great question. I'm actually heading up to Maine this weekend.
Oh, great.
Oh, terrific.
To explore this, yeah. Tough timing to go to Maine, isn't it? I got a pretty good job. But so here's the issue here. So think about Maine. Number one, you have a fairly Trumpy base there. You have Paul LePage running for Congress, the former governor up there. But you also have a whole lot of moderates, right? Especially in southern Maine, along the coast and things like that. Bush Republicans, Susan Collins Republicans, and Republicans who don't like Trump. A lot of moderate Republican women who don't like Trump. And so what do you do here, right? What do you do? Maybe you voted for Susan Collins in the past, but if there's a possibility for a Democratic Senate, maybe you'd like to vote Democrat for Senate, but you're a moderate Republican woman and you're reading Mr. Plattner's history about, just wear some Kevlar to prevent sexual assault in the military. Now, again, he has to explain his past. All the perfect people raise their hands. And so that's the big challenge, though. She won the last election. I know that was 6 years ago, but she won the last election against the then the Democratic Speaker of the Maine House. Susan Collins prevailed. To beat her, you got to take votes from her. And who are you going to take? Who are you going to take from her? So, two challenges: can Mr. Plattner pick up moderate Republican women, independent women who voted for Susan Collins in the past? And number two, can Collins keep Trump voters? Well, do they turn out and vote for her, even though she has had not as many differences as I think you two would like, but on occasion she disagrees with the president, and she's certainly not Trumpy in her rhetoric. She's voted against a couple of the cabinet picks. She stood up to him on some budget cuts. So that's a fascinating race to me because they both have transactions they have to make with voter groups that are suspicious of them, at least at the outset.
Yeah, and she's also brought some considerable funding back to Maine, too, which you read constantly.
Being on the
about
Appropriations Committee helps.
Yeah, that's been a big deal for her,
By the way, we should add to that list with Collins. Just correct me if I'm wrong, just days ago, she flipped her position on the 60-day deadline around the war. Sort of a rare example of what I was talking about before. My future's hanging here. My constituents are not happy about prices because of the war, and all of a sudden she does a 180. So, John, I don't know how to put this to you without depressing you like we do our listeners every single day. So I read somewhere one of your hometown teams was knocked out of the hockey playoffs in 6 games. Another one of your hometown teams was knocked out of the NBA, that'd be basketball, John, playoffs in 7 games. And the baseball team, whatever they're called, is not off to a spectacular start. A lot of their pitchers are on the disabled list or whatever. So how are you feeling about Titletown?
Go Fleet. I think that women's professional hockey team is doing quite well, aren't they? I think we can stick with them right now.
What'd you think of the? What'd you think?
Go ahead. Phillies fired their manager too. You know.
I know that. That is true. That is true. Yes. So, what did you? I'm assuming you were watching the Celtics game Friday night.
Yeah.
What were you thinking about this?
They need a more athletic team. I think Nick Nurse, the Sixers coach, made great adjustments, realizing early on. Number one, I never thought of an appendectomy. Joel Embiid, their center, had an appendectomy, turned out to be the fountain of youth. He came back from that in 3 weeks, and he looked 10 years younger.
Yeah.
But number two, they're younger players, and their great guard Maxey. Nick Nurse just ran. He just had those guys go from 0 to 60 because the Celtics, for all their strengths, are not a fast athletic team, and the Sixers just really smartly beat them. Period.
Someone texted me today about the situation with the Celtics coach, Joe Mazzulla, and they asked this question. You would probably know because you're a student of sports too. Has any coach in any sport, professional sport, ever gotten Coach of the Year and been fired on the same day? Has that ever happened? Do you know?
I don't know that answer. Alex Cora did win 17-1 and get fired the next.
That's a very,
that's right.
That's a very good point.
That's right.
Hey, John, we're thrilled you're going to Maine. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. It's good to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, John King. Always great to talk to you. We have been speaking with John King, who's Chief National Correspondent for CNN and Behind the Reporting Project all over the map. Coming up after this.
Did you watch a game Friday night?
No.
You didn't?
I did not.
What the hell were you doing?
I don't know what I was doing. I was babysitting. That's what
you
I was
were,
doing.
which
yes,
is what you do most of the time now.
Yeah. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to talk with Carol Rose from the ACLU of Massachusetts. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
School bullying remains pervasive in Massachusetts, and records show many schools turning a blind eye to the problem.
Parents want to protect their kids. They're filing the complaints. They're asking for follow-up. They're asking the school to protect the kids. And the schools are ignoring these complaints.
I'm Chris Burrell from the GBH News Center for Investigative Reporting. You can find the rest of that story online at gbhnews.org.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Framingham State University, where the strength of a Commonwealth begins with access to opportunity. At FSU, students examine evidence and serve the public good. Framingham State University. Live to the truth. Learn more at framingham.edu.
And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping customers achieve their vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding them from design to completion. With showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. AtlanticDesignCTR.com.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. We're also on NEPM. Jim Browder, Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. C.L. Fornari, the garden lady, is with us here at the library tomorrow. She is wildly popular. And, well, this is interesting. Thursday, the day after the argument at the Supreme Judicial Court, Diana DiZoglio and the auditor and her lawyer, Shannon Liss-Reardon, or she hopes her lawyer, are going to join us to talk about that argument and the status of the attempt to audit the legislature. And the person they're in this imbroglio with, the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will be with us next Tuesday here at the library. So we will get an update from both sides of tomorrow's hearing around the state's highest court tomorrow. Joined now live at the library by Carol Rose. Carol's the executive director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts, ACLUM.org. Hi, Carol. How are you?
Hi, it's great to be here.
Nice to see you.
So Carol Rose, thank you very much for coming in. So right before we went on the air on Monday, we were going to talk about what it would mean for mifepristone, since the majority of women now who get abortions are getting them through these two drugs, mifepristone, being the one that many want to ban. But the Supreme Court on Monday restored...
Banned through telehealth, that you could only...
you have to go in person. Right. Thank you. I should have said that. Banned it. This temporary ban only lasts till May 11th. The Supreme Court stated
temporary
for a
pause
week.
on the ban.
It's a pause. Yeah. So what happened? It's super complicated. Yeah. No, it is. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is out of Louisiana, right? That's not our court. They issued a nationwide decision, which basically said you can no longer mail mifepristone. In fact, they're challenging the FDA and saying you have to go in person. Which is like really hard for people who are in, working people in rural areas and things like that. And this would apply.
Well, in a red state, you can't go at all unless you leave the state.
Because so many clinics that they used to be able to go to are shut down, including some Planned Parenthood places where people used to be able to go because of attacks on Planned Parenthood.
That's exactly right, Marjorie. And what they want to do is try to make it be nationwide. So even in places like Massachusetts, where we believe in the right to bodily autonomy and access to health care, it would be hard to do. So we're challenging it back. So the Supreme Court put a pause on it, to your point, Jim, but only for a week, right? And so they're going to be, there were briefs that are going to be due on Thursday of this week, and then on Monday, the court's going to take it up. So right now, what your listeners really need to know is you can still access safe, legal, mifepristone and other kinds of reproductive health care here in Massachusetts. And if you have a question about your particular situation, there's a hotline that the Attorney General's office has set up.
What is it?
And the number is 833-309-6301. So that's 833-309-6301. So if you have a question about accessing reproductive health care right now, that's the number you can call if you have questions about your own personal access. But I want people to know, with all the court battles and things going back and forth, here in Massachusetts, at least for the next week, you have access, and hopefully
after that,
for longer.
You'd have to go in person to a clinic to get it.
Yeah, but that's only if that opinion is upheld.
So can you explain? I have two questions.
I have a question, too. And my question is, I thought there was all this talk about how that decisions made in a courtroom, a lower court, were not going to be nationwide edicts. What happened to that?
That is what the Supreme Court said when they overruled Roe versus Wade. They said, we want to leave it to the states to decide. But now in the Eighth Circuit, which is a federal court that oversees like Louisiana and Oklahoma and places like that, they're trying to do a nationwide move that would take away our rights that we in Massachusetts want. So we, the ACLU and other groups, are challenging it, particularly Danco and the other companies that make this drug, which has been shown to be safe, has been used for decades, and they're trying to hold up the FDA. So that's where the battle is being joined, is at the FDA
So
level.
it's still possible to make lower court decisions that affect the whole nation. That hasn't gone away.
Well, that's an interesting question. It seems like, does it only go away when it's on the side of the Trump administration, or does it only, so we're seeing now with this case and with the voting rights case and others that the Supreme Court seems to be, again, bending in an ideological way that's partisan. That's very, very concerning.
I have there's another question, is what is the Trump administration going to do? They have to choose between the Louisiana position, which is anti-choice, or in which case they'd be opposing their own FDA.
Right.
The FDA has said it's fine to prescribe this
is the
via
FDA
telehealth.
regulations.
Their
Absolutely.
own FDA. So that's the first
Absolutely.
question that's unresolved, and I don't think it's as easy as people think. And the second thing is, why did Alito was the justice who's responsible for this region?
For that region.
Why would Alito even grant a temporary stay, considering we know what his position is? Is this just throw him a bone to show him?
I think it is. And also, there was, when you think about it, and Stephen Vladeck, who's at Georgetown Law School, has done a great analysis of this. And he said that, you can say, well, he acted in 48 hours, but when it was on the other side with the Texas redistricting case, he acted in 68 minutes. Right? And instead, so there seems to be, again, this growing clear partisanship to be, a stay of 1 week isn't a lot of stay, and especially if you wait 2 days to issue it. So, there's a lot of things that we can do moving forward. And I think the most important thing is to address the fear that people may be having out there, because there's also other medications that people can take. They're not as effective.
The second drug, they're not as effective, and they have side effects. You can take that a couple of times.
Misoprostol, that's right. And so, abortion providers here in Massachusetts and across the country are doing a lot to get people ready and to make sure people are protected. But this is, we anticipated that this kind of a shenanigan was going to be coming, but it's very discouraging to see the U.S. Supreme Court, especially Alito, on both this and the voting rights case, really reflecting sort of a partisan inclination. Well, it's not, and and also, I mean, honestly,
that was a joke,
I know, but I know, but the meeting with the king. Oh, I'm usually so happy, but the state dinner with the king.
Yeah,
like all 6 of the Republican justices participated, and the fact that we even talk about them is like partisan justices.
Well,
but
by the way, and the fact one of those 6 justices was Roberts, who has gone out of his way, the Chief Justice, say at every opportunity, there's no partisan divide in the court. The 6 conservatives are invited, and they go, and the 3 liberal-leaning justices are not invited,
right?
And but there's no partisan divide.
Do we know that?
We don't know if they were not invited or if they just didn't participate. I don't know.
Can we get back to Alito for a second?
They shouldn't even be there.
Speaking of timing and Alito, there's a big dust-up between Ketanji Brown Jackson and Alito over this rush to implement the voting rights decision, which we've discussed ad nauseum here, but you're free to explain it again if you choose, so that places like Louisiana, even though voters have already cast ballots, including veterans, military people overseas, so that they can redistrict and restart the elections. How out of the norm is it for a justice to essentially ensure that a decision is rushed in place so that a partisan action can be taken?
So I will just say, first of all, so this Calais decision, for people who haven't seen what it is, this is basically the final, nail in the coffin of the Voting Rights Act, and basically says that, it takes away the right of people of color to have voting districts, in effect. And it's just really shameful. It's like the Plessy v. Ferguson, people are saying, of our time, and really sets back, centuries of civil rights work, of the Civil War, and we fought for the right of every vote to count and for people to have a fair vote. And while the ACLU is nonpartisan, we do care about voting rights. And one of the things that's just really shocking is that yesterday, Alito waived, through using the emergency docket, the 32-day waiting period that usually comes between a final decision and implementation, so that they could effectively pause the current vote that's already taken place. So just so you know, the ACLU went into court on Friday and challenged that on behalf of the League of Women Voters, and I think the NAACP is another group that we're representing, and as well as individual voters who already cast their votes, and now they're not going to be counted. I mean, this is literally, and I just have to share with you, I know you've talked about it, but
it's fine.
Justice Kagan's dissent is such a thing. If I'm nerdier than your average Jane, but if people are inclined to go and read her dissent in the Calais case, C-A-L-L-A-I-S, it's the voting rights case, her dissent is a masterful
You're going to read part of it?
Just the
Good,
one.
please
I
do.
dissent, and she writes, "The Voting Rights Act is, or now more accurately was, one of the most consequential, efficacious, and amply justified exercises of federal legislative power in our nation's history. It ushered in awe-inspiring change, bringing our nation closer to fulfilling the ideals of democracy and racial equality. It's been repeatedly and overwhelmingly reauthorized by the people's representatives in Congress, and only they have the right to say it's no longer needed, not the majority of this court. I dissent, then, from this latest chapter in the majority's now completed demolition of the Voting Rights Act." I mean, that is a dissent that will someday be a majority opinion. I hope in my lifetime, but it's so important that people pay attention to what Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sotomayor and Kagan are writing in these dissents, because they're laying out the history for the future for all of us to follow.
Okay, so wait, let me stay on this for 1 second, because I'm sorry, broken record me is going to be broken yet again. And I'm only doing this yet again because you are probably the most positive person about the future in a constructive way, not in a mindless way. Okay, imagine a country in which on one day a decision is made that all the women in this country no longer have freedom to decide, second time in 4 years, have no freedom to decide whether or not to have a kid or not. Within a few days, the Supreme Court issues a decision essentially gutting one of the most important pieces of civil rights legislation in American history. I think it's fair to say the Voting Rights Act finishes what your guy, John Roberts, started with the Shelby case and pre-clearance issues a bunch of years ago. What was the response, I may have missed it, of the American public to these two assaults on people of color and the whole woman population of the United States?
I will say the response is that the courts can help, but they can't do it alone. We have to have people power. So the ACLU is launching an election safeguarding action plan. And we have 17 different scenarios that we're looking at.
Bring it on. Let's hear it. What is that?
So, it's starting now. And so
what is it?
What basically we're looking at, if they try to steal the ballots, this is what we can do. If they try to intimidate people by sending ICE to the polls, this is what we can do. If they try to gerrymander, this is what we can do. And we have people who are working through these, and of course it's going to be different in every state. Because, here in Massachusetts, we filed 2 or 3 now voting rights suits, right, to try to prevent the DOJ from trying to take away Bill Galvin's, our voting records. We won on that one. And then there's another suit that we filed having to do with the executive order on election day registration, trying to say you can't use mail-in registration, sorry. And so, we're filing in the lawsuits, but we're also mobilizing people. We're passing laws to protect. We passed the strongest shield law in the country. We're taking people out. We have no kings. People need to show up. Everybody can do something. Nobody can do it all. But each one of us, it's like drops of water in the ocean. And if each of us
Raise your right hand.
We can do it.
Raise your right hand.
Okay, I don't know. I don't do oaths.
Tell me that you are not somewhat disappointed by the muted response to these 2 decisions by the American people. I'm not talking about activists and advocates, but by the American people.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but we just had 180,000 people show up on the Boston Common. I am not. In fact, I'm inspired by the American people. There are people taking actions, and if you want to and you haven't yet, join the ACLU Action Team, aclum.org. We are putting people to work, but people power is really what we have. And I think about the words of Justice Thurgood Marshall about our democracy. He said, "As our democracy, we must make it, protect it, and pass it on." This is our moment in history, who has time for despair? For centuries, enslaved people, they didn't have time for despair. They kept working. And history isn't a linear line, Jim. There's setbacks, but those are the setbacks that tell us where we need to fight and build better. I'm not
shaking my head in a negative way at you. I'm shaking my head like I want to be you when I grow up.
Okay. So join the ACLU election.
Can we talk about this Rhode Island judge?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
please do.
I love this one. Well, the Department of Justice lawyer had to apologize to this judge in Rhode Island because they didn't give the DOJ failed to give them the correct information.
Right.
She didn't know that this guy was accused of murder in another country. She didn't know this, and they did this. I'm telling the whole story. You want to tell the story?
No, you tell it.
They did this to make it look like she was letting free being soft on an accused
murderer. A guy who had a
murderer.
murder warrant out for him.
That they had withheld from her.
And she got death threats as a result of it.
Yes, and she said it put her and the court at stake. And the guy got up there and apologized and said he only did it because ICE made him do it.
Right. I mean, it's very important that we pay attention to this stuff.
And then
this
you have
is attempting to use ICE and the Department of Justice as Trump's own, prosecutorial arm of his political wing, which is not what the Department of Justice does.
And they pulled the same thing with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Where now, did you read about that one?
No,
this is where they want Todd Blanche, who's the acting attorney general, to correct false statements because what they're alleging here is that these jurors, the grand jury that indicted the Southern Poverty Law Foundation, a bunch of things, bank fraud, wire fraud, everything else, that they did not give the correct information to the grand jurors, that they lied to the grand jurors.
Wow, I haven't heard that yet.
Well, basically, that they were using informants to dismantle white supremacist organizations, which they said undercut the core of the government's case that argues that they were using these informants to boost such groups. So they were doing this to undermine these groups.
Right, of course.
And apparently the argument by the DOJ attorneys in front of the grand jury was they were doing it to boost such groups, to increase racism, etc. So they want the transcripts of what they said, which is very unusual because they're lying.
Well, it's like this and the
or
Comey
they're allegedly
indictment.
lying.
I mean, they're almost clownish. And, you know, a lot of people are suggesting that perhaps Todd Blanche is, you know, auditioning to become, you know, the permanent Attorney General.
Oh,
so he's
sure
sort
he
of
is.
doing Trump's personal bidding. But, you know, if you look at what's happening with Trump in the popularity polls, the vast majority of Americans are unhappy with what's happening in this country. They're disillusioned, and they don't want to continue with this. And so this is an opportunity for us to, you know, not go back, but go forward to something new and better.
You're unbelievable.
Okay, thank you very much, Carol Rose.
I mean that in a totally admiring sort of way. I mean,
and here's to the Fourth
attitude.
Estate and Boston Public Radio. Appreciate you guys.
Great to see you, Carol.
Well, Jim
Rose.
thinks
Take
people
care.
should be marching 24/7. I
Yeah,
guess
I
that's
do,
basically
actually.
it.
What did Ken Casey say here the other day? They changed the day of garbage pickup in Greece, and the whole country goes on strike.
But the difference is in Greece, they have union protection, which we don't have here in the United States, and people are working 2 and 3 jobs, and they can't. Okay, we have to go now. Carol
Thank
Rose,
you.
Executive Director of the ACLU. Up next, we're going to talk with Sports Boston's Trenni Casey. This is BPR on GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library.
Do your part to support the programs you love by becoming a GBH Sustainer. Sustainers make easy monthly donations that keep the news you trust on the air, month after month, year after year. Enrolling is simple at gbh.org/sustainer.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And M&M Skylights, located in Stoneham, installing and servicing the full range of Velux skylights that can help bring air and more natural light into homes. Skylight consultations can be scheduled at mmskylights.com.
And the Boston Speakers Series announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings, including Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, historian Doris Kearns Goodwin, and former U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns. BostonSpeakers.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The Garden Lady, C.L. Funari, is going to be with us tomorrow. State Auditor Diana Zaglio is going to be with us on Thursday, along with the Fonz, Henry Winkler, and the Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell, joins us on Tuesday, May 12th.
Do you
Hello,
think we
Jim.
can depress the Garden Lady? She's like not a depressible kind of person. Do you think we can achieve that? I think
we're going to
can.
move away from some depressing stuff right now.
We are okay. Because we're joined out at the library. Well, actually, not all is uplifting, but some of it is. We're joined out at the library by Trenni Casey, anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston, and a BPR contributor. Hello there, Trenni.
Hi, guys.
Hi there.
Can I tell you guys an embarrassing story involving
Please.
Carol Rose?
I wish you would.
So she's so wonderful. Every
She's
time I
pretty good.
send her a student to talk to who wants to get into social justice work or law, she's so great about helping them. So last week, I'm a little out of it, and I'm like, hey, I've got this girl. She's my friend's daughter. She graduated from Auburn. Let me send you her resume and her info so you can talk to her. So I click something in my files, and I send it to Carol. I was like, I think this is a resume, but I can't really tell. I'm not sure. And then I waited a little bit. And I was like, maybe I should go back and see what I sent to Carol Rose. I honestly have no idea. I sent her a tax return.
She got a refund?
I sent her my Fidelity tax stuff, which I think at the end of the day was like $20 in dividends. So I don't think it was like a big deal or anything. But I was like, so that's not right. Let's start over and try again.
Oh no!
I'm officially middle-aged.
Yeah, well, you were also under the weather, as you said, so that could have.
Oh no, I wasn't under the weather. I just was out of it.
You were
just
out of it. Okay,
Yep,
you were just out of it. Okay, so I wanted to mention Golden Tempo on the Kentucky Derby.
They mentioned Secretariat a couple times, and I thought of you, Marjorie.
Well, the lineage, they've got this whole sheet here with all the lineage of Golden Temple. Here it is. Oh. Everyone wants to know how Secretariat played a role in this win. Well, Secretariat was a father to Weekend Surprise, who paired with Seattle Slew to have AP Indy, a massively great, successful sire, AP Indy. His son, Bernardin, had Karumba, who was the mother to Golden Tempo, and Golden Tempo's father was the great Curlin, who won the Preakness and the Breeders' Cup. So that was the lineage the Secretariat came down from. But the thing I wanted to talk about...
Wait a second, wasn't like every horse in the lineage of Secretary in the Kentucky Derby?
I think
what was this horse doing?
He got around. He got around after his.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Not just on the racetrack.
That's right.
Either.
That's why he had to say he was too tired to keep racing.
Exactly.
But anyway, for the first time, a woman trainer won the Kentucky Derby.
Unbelievable.
It's Claire DeVoe.
Her reaction brought me to tears.
Oh,
like the way that she watched not just her reacting to winning the race, but when they interviewed her right afterwards, and I'm forgetting which reporter spoke to her first. But the reporter, of course, asks what it's like to be the first woman. And first she says, I have to thank my husband. I wasn't even going to do this. And then he said, why don't you just try it? And if it doesn't work out, big deal. We'll make it work. How wonderful to have a supportive husband to allow you to chase your dreams and not discourage you from them. And then she said, I just hope, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'll probably get it a little wrong, but I hope that other women see that I did this and they know they can do things that have never been done before too. It just, in the moment, and she was, her daughter was right behind her, really emotional, and talking about what it was like to see her mom push through in this field and to be a part of it as her child, to watch her have the success. It was just such a wonderful story.
And by the way, the things she gave up were her husband encouraged. She was a pre-med student.
She was a pre-med student.
She had a big career
Although
ahead
she
of her.
did sound like she didn't really want to take organic chem.
Yeah. That's what I know. That was great.
Which who really wants to take
But
organic chem,
she's
right?
won a ton of races, as they said. This is, she won nearly 300 victories in her career. So she's quite something.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the answer to this. How welcoming is the male-dominated horse racing industry?
I don't know exactly, but I will say this. Donna Brothers, who has been the long time, she's the reporter who's always on the horse.
Oh, yeah.
For
I
NBC.
love that.
It actually was her
interviewing people.
Because she's an equestrian. But it was her last Kentucky Derby. She's retiring from broadcasting. And I did notice that everyone who spoke to her almost like jockeys, trainers, owners, spoke to her with a reverence. Everyone referred to her as Donna. Not that that's necessarily an indication of what it's like, but clearly it's a I think probably if you're good at what you do, you are welcomed because they just want good people in positions. In fact, is it Cherie, right, is how you say her name?
Cherie DeVoe, I think.
Cherie DeVoe. She got into horse training because of a man, Clark Simon. I think Clark was his first name, but I know his last name is Simon.
He died a couple of years ago.
He died a couple of years ago after a battle with cancer, but it was him who saw something in her and brought her into the fold. So to me, that says maybe it is more welcoming than you would think it would be.
You know what's another nice story out of the race? Did you know? I didn't know this till this morning, that the top two finishing jockeys are brothers.
I know. It's incredible.
How great is that?
Yeah.
There's so
Did
many
you
great
see before
stories.
The jockey was asked about beating his brother.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it was I was on a plane, so I was watching every last second of it. And it was funny because he was he kind of paused for a second because I think he knew, it's probably hard to see your brother not. I think it would have been one thing if his brother finished way back, but it was pretty close.
It was.
And so he was very thoughtful about it and said, they're both supportive of one another and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was two brothers.
Yeah, Zoe says they're both from Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you see right before the race, though, when Great White reared up?
Oh, my God. It was, it made me tear up. And that's what I don't love about horse racing. And my husband was sitting next to me on the plane. And I asked him why he didn't watch the Derby, and he's like, after seeing that horse fall, he's like, I was just afraid that they were going to take it out back and shoot it, because that's what they do,
right?
Yeah,
it went right up on its hind legs. The jockey fell off, thank
God. The horse fell
backwards and did not land on the jockey.
It was really, God. That probably would have crushed me. I think they said it's something like a 3,000-pound horse.
Yeah. Would have crushed him.
It would have crushed the jockey. But I think it was a French jockey, and I only watched it one time. I didn't want to watch any of the replays, but it looks like he knew when he fell to sort of almost roll. Yeah. I'm sure you're taught that I don't ride horses. But yeah, that kind of stuff makes me do these poor horses really want to be? And some of them, they were shoving their butts into the starting gates.
Oh, no.
And it's I don't.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people who think it shouldn't happen.
But people who love horses race horses, so I don't know.
Okay, so things have not, we just asked John King about this. He's a big sports
Oh,
fan.
I listened. I heard.
Yeah, things have not gone so well for the local teams.
No. Which dumpster fire do you want to start with?
Well, we could start with the Celtics.
Don't you carry the Celtics on your station,
They sure
right?
are.
Yeah,
Jim,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Celtics. I mean, I'm not a big sports aficionado, as you know, but I'm a fair weather friend.
But you do like basketball.
I do like basketball, and I've said this like 2 or 3 years ago. We talked about the Celtics before. If you're having a bad night, your shooting is off, and you're not hitting three.
Why do you keep shooting 3-pointers, Marjorie?
Exactly.
I have no idea.
You know, my kid said, by the way, who knows nothing about basketball. I think nothing. She just decides who's good looking, and she follows.
That's fair.
She says in the middle of this game, she says, "Why don't they pass the damn ball?" And this is she literally.
I know.
She doesn't know basketball from a football.
With the three and only shot the
Is
three.
it
Like it
unique?
happened with Brad, it happened with Ime Udoka, and now it's happening. It's happening more with Joe Mazzulla
Is
than
it the
did
Celtics,
either.
though? Do other teams do this?
Listen, everybody shoots the three more now than they did before.
Nobody as
It's
much as
just-
the Celtics.
But if you're literally no one as much as the Celtics. Like 3-point attempts in the first round of the playoffs. The Celtics averaged, I think, 46.1 or 46.2 3-point attempts per game. The next closest team is the Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending champions, at 39.3.
Oh, that's
almost 7 full. They're taking
So the
7
Celtics-
more 3-pointers
Yeah.
than the next closest team. Like it's bad business. It's also just like my reasoning for Joe Mazzulla should at least be under consideration for maybe moving on from him is that this is not the first time. First of all, I think 3 of their last 4 times that they've been in the postseason, they've lost to lower seeds and gotten knocked out really early. The exception, of course, being the year they won the championship. And every time they get knocked out, it is the same conversation.
Yeah.
Joe Mazzulla isn't making in-game adjustments. Joe Mazzulla is standing up there and saying, well, we had open threes, we just didn't make them. Like Sam Hauser after the game goes, well, if we would have made 50% more of our shots. Well, yeah, well, if I would have picked all the right winning lottery tickets, I would have won the lottery too. Like, that's not the point. Like, it's just this mentality of we're just going to shoot the three with abandon, and if we win, we win, and if we lose, we lose. And the problem is that's how they won. They shot the three really well when they won the title a couple of years ago.
If you're hot that night, but sometimes you just have a bad night.
Right, then
so
you try
go for
something
the easier
else, yeah.
basket.
Also great if you have consistent 3-point shooters. Like the Celtics don't
horrible.
have that anymore. Like Derek White is not the same player he was. Like Peyton Pritchard is inconsistent. Sam Hauser's inconsistent. Like it's just you don't have someone like that's probably going to get hot every single night like you did when you had Drew Holiday and even Kristaps Porzingis to a lesser degree, and definitely Al Horford. All 3 of those guys are gone.
Okay, so ESPN, is it ESPN that had the image of the boat? And on the boat was Brown and I think it was NBA Today or something like that.
Oh, Tatum.
Brown and Tatum and some other people. And it's the front of the boat looking Titanic-like, like Kate Winslet.
Believe they
and
did this.
What's his name? Oh, there it is.
Mike Vrabel and Diana
Yeah,
Rossini.
who are they imitating at the front of the boat?
Well, that's not imitating. Those are like AI versions.
No, I
or
know,
like
but who
picture
is the AI?
versions.
Who is
so
the-
that is Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the
Yeah.
Patriots, and Diana Rossini, the now since resigned reporter and NFL insider for The Athletic.
It's like a Titanic pose.
Yes, and the reason they're doing this is because photos came out right after Easter of the 2 of them at an adults-only couples resort in Sedona, Arizona. At first, the 2 tried to pretend like it was nothing. This is, I believe, Vrabel called the pictures laughable.
Laughable.
Diana Rossini said you meet with sources all the time, but more and more pictures have come out of the 2 of them kissing, canoodling, a number of different
One of her
things.
favorite words.
I love the word canoodling. And it's really, like, if we're being honest, it's caused problems for the Patriots. It's something that every single player is getting asked about now. Diana Rossini has had to resign from her job. Mike Vrabel missed day 3 of the NFL draft.
Does he survive this?
Right now, yes, Jim. But listen, I think it has taken on a life that maybe people didn't think it was. I don't think he'll get fired, right? Like he did not, fair, unfair, he did not violate like a personal policy. Like Diana Rossini violated a term of her employment.
Well, it's ethically.
Right?
Right, there's no question.
It's an ethical issue for her, not so much for him. Moral for both, absolutely. But in sports, it happens all the time. What I think, though, could possibly happen, or we might see, he already had to miss the draft because he went to Utah to spend some time with his wife, Jen, to try to, work through things. And now TMZ is following him through airports. TMZ is following her through airports. There's always a new story every single day. Like, does it get to a point where he needs to step away from duties to handle what's going on at home? Like, that is a situation where, does he survive this? You know, I don't think it'll come to the point where he'll have to step away or take time away. But every time we think everything's fine, like another bomb gets dropped. So I don't think I can say with certainty that he's going to be with the team the entire year if more comes of this.
Can I continue my depressing state of mind, which is essentially...
Were we talking about the Red Sox?
No. If we stopped 100 people in the street and said to them, do you know who Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini are? And then we asked the same 100 people if they knew what the Strait of Hormuz was.
Oh, God.
Would you
so
not
sad.
agree?
I think more people would know
who
Diana
Rossini.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I
what
don't think so. I think they've heard of the Strait of
Although
Hormuz.
the only reason I would say no now, Jim, is because the Strait of Hormuz has affected gas prices, grocery prices.
Like, so
I
think
people
might know that because it affects them personally, and we are, by design, a species that is self-absorbed.
Okay, I was going to say that let's move to something upbeat, but it relates to someone who died, and obviously that's not upbeat. John Sterling is somebody I have admired. He died at 87. He was one of the broadcasters for the New York Yankees. Everybody listening has heard him, whether you know or not. Here he is calling the 2009 Yankees World Series.
Now Rivera is set. And here's the payoff. Swung on and grounded to second. Cano fields, throws to first, in time. Ball game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win!
You know, one of the reasons I love this guy, beyond the fact that he was so entertaining, is there's some wonderful broadcasters in sports, but so many of the people who have a team, like Sterling had the Yankees, create this, this signature thing that sounds so so unreal, so phone. This guy, all of his gimmicks were just great. And I thought he was... So many people I've heard in the last, 24 hours said the reason they grew up loving the Yankees
is because of John
Sterling. Because of John Sterling. It was just great.
I mean, listen, some of, for those of us, I think of a certain age where you always listened to, especially baseball. Some of my fondest memories as a kid is on the radio listening to Bob Uecker call Brewers games. I can right now, I'm transported back to my childhood home, sitting at our pool, with a radio outside and us listening to the Brewers on the radio. You listen to them in the car. Like, now I feel like it's a little different because they're streaming and video has sort of taken over our lives. But
I still listen to baseball on the
I love
radio for that exact
radio.
same reason that you described.
I love baseball on the radio. There's something different. I almost like that there's not a completely crisp, clean quality to it, that there's a little bit of like an old school nature to listening to baseball on the radio. No, but one thing I didn't know about John Sterling, I guess I only associated him with the Yankees, but like his path forward and all those different sports that he called. He called hockey, he called basketball. Like, he did all of these different sports, which, by the way, is really, really hard to do. Like, a lot of broadcasters come up kind of focusing on one sport, and I think at one point he was in New Jersey calling like the Nets and the Devil. Like, it was something crazy. And to have that level of talent for play-by-play for multiple sports, to me, is just really impressive. And I can honestly say I don't know that I ever heard a bad thing about John Sterling.
Well, speaking of people in the multi-sport, one of the brilliant contemporary people is the local guy, Sean McDonough.
Sean McDonough's awesome.
His ability to do anything and to do it brilliantly and captivatingly.
I feel like I saw him. Did you see him on Saturday night? Like, I feel like he was sitting like behind one of the benches at the basketball game.
Really?
Like, they kind of just kept taking a shot, and I was like, I think that's Sean McDonough.
Will McDonough's son, the great sports writer, obviously,
so
the Boston
talented.
Globe, just
so
talented. So before you go, speaking of talent, Pablo Torre, explain who he is.
Oh my God, this is incredible.
Pulitzer Prize.
Pulitzer Prize for the Athletic.
You have a minute and a half.
Okay, so obviously the Pulitzer Prize is the prize in journalism. It's like winning an Emmy in television or an Oscar for the movies. And one of the newer categories is audio reporting. Is that what it's called? Or audio journalism?
I think.
But essentially, it's podcast.
Audio reporting.
Reporting.
Yep.
The first ever audio reporting Pulitzer went to a very deserving This American Life, which is done out of WBZ in Chicago, which is another NPR affiliate. And so when I saw that Pablo Torre Finds Out won the Pulitzer this year, I was like, that is incredible. One, it's a sports podcast. But two, a lot of people, when Pablo Torre was, a lot of his stuff is deep dive, right? Like he digs into, he went to Harvard. He's a true journalist, worked for Sports Illustrated and ESPN. But one of the stories he dug into, and a lot of what we talked about on the show, guys, was Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. And people sort of dismiss Pablo Torre because they're like, he's just this sports guy who does this podcast. And I'm like, no, Pablo Torre is a legit reporter who is sourced, who double, triple sources. Like, this isn't someone who throws something against the wall to see if it sticks. So if he's reporting something, it has been vetted, it has been worked on. But congratulations to him. I think he's proved a lot of doubters wrong. And I think done a great thing for sports journalism, which has really taken a hit in years. I think most people think now it's just the toy store. It's just fluffy, like
The
stuff.
Athletic.
But there's real issues I think that he tackles.
And
in
The
sports,
Athletic
which
is
awesome.
part of the New York Times.
It is.
So
Yep.
I think there's a high standard there. But yeah, even people that aren't that into sports.
I just mostly love that he was probably right about Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. So take that, Jordan.
Weren't they at the Kentucky Derby? Or
Of course they were.
Of course they were.
After her big cheerleading competition.
Thank you, Trenni. We've been speaking with Trenni Casey, anchor reporter for NBC Sports Boston and BPR contributor. After a quick break, another update from the Boston Symphony Orchestra and the Players Union continuing their support for ousted maestro Andres Nelsons. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, the FDA just made it easier for researchers to study the health impacts of psychedelic drugs. So today we meet a man whose work studying the impacts of psilocybin on IBS just got a lot smoother. Yeah, we're serious. Plus, how scientists figured out bumblebees can keep a beat. That's the Curiosity Desk today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Moonbox Productions, presenting the 5th annual Boston New Works Festival. 7 original plays from local playwrights on 3 different stages at Arrow Street Arts, May 7th through May 10th. Ticket info at moonboxproductions.org.
And Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty believes progress happens when people feel secure and exists to help people embrace today and pursue tomorrow. Learn more at libertymutual.com.
Welcome back to BPR. I am Jim Browder. She is Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. As Marjorie said a minute ago, we have promised you since the day that the music director of the Boston Symphony Orchestra, Andres Nelsons, was terminated, that we would continue to bring updates until there is resolution. So we're going to do that today. We are in possession. We received a copy of a letter that was sent to the board on behalf of the players in the orchestra by the head of the Players Committee, Todd Sieber, who's been with the orchestra almost 40 years. I don't have time to read you this whole thing. It is a beautiful piece with a passionate embrace of the art, the artists, and their leader, Andres Nelsons, and it's pretty clear they want that leader to continue to be their leader. It's also clear how united the players are in their position, despite the effort by management to talk about, business as usual and play divide and conquer. In his piece, Todd Sieber mentions that the players had heard that the board of the BSO was told that they had endorsed this vague strategic plan, which, by the way, Marjorie, they had not. That the board was falsely assured that they would or did support the termination of Andres. It's sort of like Trump being assured the strait, don't worry about the strait, that won't be closed. And the questions players raised in that mid-March communication are still unanswered, starting with, why was Andres Nelsons terminated? In the meantime, massive support continues to grow. Just this past week, one of the world's great pianists, Lang came out in support of the rehiring of Andres Nelsons, joining many, many orchestra players, hundreds around the world. And you know what just broke minutes ago, Marjorie?
What?
Andres Nelsons becomes honorary member of the Vienna Philharmonic, meaning they're honoring him, obviously, in an attempt to make a statement to the managers at the BSO who decided to terminate him. Good for the Vienna Philharmonic.
Okay, well, fast forward to this weekend when the Globe has an editorial. Here's the headline. BSO board can't get out of its own way, even as fundraising fails. And you know, we always talk about when a politician or a political entity is described in a newspaper like the Globe or any other as embattled.
Bad news.
It's always a bad sign. It kind of means your days are numbered. And this story begins with the embattled board of trustees of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. But I wanted to share with you the last two graphs, which I think are really powerful.
Of the editorial.
Yes, of the editorial. And here it is. Andres Nelsons doesn't handle the BSO's books. He isn't responsible for its marketing. And judging from a recent after-concert appearance in New York City, he's certainly capable of charming the bejesus out of would-be donors who have suddenly put their checkbooks away in the midst of this controversy. His musicians clearly adore him. The growing number of red roses on the lapels of BSO patrons attest to his fans in the audience. A sensible board would recognize Nelson's is not the problem and try to patch things up while there's still time, but then a sensible board wouldn't have gotten itself into this mess in the first place.
Well, I tell you, we agree with the editorial when it says they should patch things up. And let me just say, it's also, I think, fair to ask, does anyone except the board chair who we've invited on the show and the president of the BSO who we've invited on the show repeatedly have any idea why Andres Nelsons was terminated?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Does anyone other than the board chair and the president really support the termination? I think not. And as a reminder, we have invited both of them here on numerous occasions. Our invitation has either been declined or ignored. We would be totally respectful, as we are, of all guests, and they'd have an opportunity to share their side of the story. But in the interim, we are with the Globe editorial. There should be an attempt by the management there to patch things up.
Well, I want them to just rehire him.
Exactly. Undo the termination for the sake of the players, for the sake of the symphony orchestra, and for the sake of this whole community. So we'll continue to do this until there is some ultimate resolution.
Okay, after this quick break, we're going to open the lines on this gorgeous day to get your thoughts, because you could actually do it today. Outdoor dining.
Yes.
What is so damn special about eating food outside while a big belching diesel truck is carrying the trash by as you eat? I'm Marjorie Regan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the BPL, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Hebrew Union College is the oldest Jewish seminary in the U.S. Now its campus in Cincinnati is shutting down and graduating its last 4 students.
For 150 years, rabbis trained in Cincinnati didn't just pass through. They connected with congregations and our agencies and our schools.
But the school does have other campuses, so it is not shutting down completely. More on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Harvard Museums of Science and Culture. 4 museums a short walk from Harvard Square, with exhibits ranging from stunning glass flowers to ancient Egyptian mummy cases. Learn more at hmsc.harvard.edu. And Framingham State University, where students learn to examine evidence and challenge assumptions. In a world of noise, truth takes discipline. Framingham State University. Live to the truth. Learn more at framingham.edu.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Regan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. C.L. Fornari, the garden lady, is with us here at the library tomorrow. Henry Winkler, best known as the Fonz, and an Emerson grad who's giving the commencement address there, will join us on Thursday, as will the state auditor, Diana DiZoglio, and her lawyer, Shannon Liss-Reardon, a day after their argument before the state's highest court. And another participant in the argument, the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will join us next Tuesday here. We'll get both sides of the story about the issue of why the legislature has not been audited, despite the vote of 72% of the people a year and a half ago. So spring has sprung. The temperatures are well above 70 today. The grass is greenish. Birds are chirping. And whatever else they do. And the construction crews are hammering away, just freed from restaurants, outdoor patios. I know that. Outdoor dining, though, is back. Restaurants across the city need to file their application to Mayor Wu, bringing another year of maybe some battling if you're North End residents, but elsewhere, I would say one of the truly great, and I am going to wax poetic, Marjorie, one of the truly great joys in life, eating outside, having a coffee outside in beautiful weather, watching people, occasionally talking to other people. The joy of outdoor dining is unlike almost anything else. And we want to talk about your experiences, where you like to do it, if it makes you as happy as it makes me. Our number is 877-301-8970. So I think you like this. You're not as enamored of it as I am, correct? Or are you?
Sometimes you have some bad experiences,
what?
Outside. Well, the diesel truck going by. I mean, there are a lot of places where you are kind of close to the street, and what you're sitting.
How often does that happen to you?
Quite a few times. It depends where you go. But in my neighborhood, you're often sitting there in the middle on Washington Street in the sidewalk, and it's the cars are bumper to bumper about 10 feet away. The fumes can be kind of bad.
That's really a crummy attitude, by the way. It really is.
No, I like being outside. I'm looking forward to being outside.
Street right now. How beautiful is the sun
they
is shining.
They could have a bunch of tables right here.
Talk to David Leonard.
And then they have wonderful places like the ICA. Which is on the water over there. What would you call it? Would you call that South Boston? Would you call that the Seaport District?
Yeah, no, the Seaport.
Seaport District. Yeah, I mean, that's gorgeous. You're sitting outside, or there are places that I've never been there, but I bet it's spectacular. On the top of the Newbury, which is the old Ritz, and you're sitting on that roof deck up there. So I get it. It's great, but you have to be there when there's not. We don't have to worry about pollen
I'm sorry.
Else.
No, I'm sorry. I occasionally, more than occasionally, have dinner on Mass Ave in Cambridge. And you know what I'm sitting next to when I'm eating dinner on Mass Ave? Automobiles and buses that are driving by. So that's a little bit of an inconvenience next to the incredible joy of being outside, either in the sun during the day or the beautiful warm night, having a meal.
Listen to this from Chris from Boston. Used to work on outdoor patio on Newbury Street. I'd wipe down tables after each table left. Every time my white cloth would be black with dirt from the table. Gross. Why don't you just sit and eat on the side of the highway?
I would eat on the side of the highway. If someone set up a table, I'd do it. Okay, enough of the stupid sound effects. 877-301-8970.
Listen to this one.
What's that?
No, thank you. Too much wind, too many allergies, and seagulls are real a-holes.
Can I tell you something?
You ever had a seagull steal your lunch? I mean, I've had that happen to me.
I can see the negative in anything, as you well know. Not this. I'm sorry. Despite your effort to poison this discussion with all the potential negatives, it is one of the true, unadulterated joys of life to be outside. By the way, do you ever sit down? Excuse me. Look at me. You ever sit down and order a cup of coffee and just stare at all the people going by, listen to their conversations?
You got a real bee in your bonnet about sitting down and ordering a cup of coffee and
it's one of the great things,
eavesdropping and looking around. Jim went to the Champs-Élysées and
no, it's not Champs-Élysées. It's Rue Claire.
Rue Claire
in Paris.
Okay, Rue Claire.
Where people sit. You know what people do? And they sit there. All the tables, face the street. Even if you're sitting with somebody, everybody's facing the street. You watch people. The weather's beautiful.
I do
remember. You
have
a fabulous cup of coffee.
I do remember going out with friends. You remember during the pandemic, we were all eating outside.
I do. I'm sure you were complaining then, too.
No, we're there. We're at this place on Beacon Street. We got our parkas on. We got our hats on. We got our gloves on. And we're shivering all through dinner. But then some places did immediately put up those heaters, those outdoor heaters, which they made a difference.
Fabulous,
but you had to be close enough to the heater to feel it. So what you do is you get 15 minutes in each chair. Okay.
You are horrible.
After every 15 minutes, you get up and move so you can be near the heater. You wanted to share the heater during dinner. All right,
877-301-8970. Marjorie's the kind of person who, when she gets to a restaurant and it's a gorgeous night, and they say, do you want to eat inside or do you want to eat outside? Thinks for like a nanosecond and then decides you're going to sit inside by the kitchen. Isn't that what you do? I mean, really?
No, I do go outside.
When was the last time you ate outside?
Last year.
Well, okay, obviously. Where was that, Marjorie? You're making this up.
It was probably the Washington Square Tavern, which I love. It's just a wonderful restaurant in Washington Square.
Did you complain the whole time?
I did not complain.
Because all the traffic going by?
The traffic was
exactly. That's somebody honked their horn, so ruined Marjorie's whole meal.
Elizabeth from Concord, thank you for calling.
Really? Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. Believe it or not, I agree so much with Jim. Usually, Marjorie, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's
Elizabeth, we're going to put you on hold.
Elizabeth.
Don't go away. We'll take a call, move around or something, and we'll get right back to you in a second.
Okay. I love the summer shack in summer, the best food and fresh air. It's so perfect. This is a different one.
Mm-hmm.
Picnic table, sunshine, birds chirping. I'm all set up. Oh, but I can't afford anything to eat.
Marjorie, what are you doing? Really?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Let's go,
Go
to
ahead,
Bob.
what?
Let's go
What
to
do
the
you mean,
next
go
call.
ahead?
Let's go to the head of the next call.
Oh,
Bob.
okay.
Bob.
Hello, Bob.
Thank you for calling.
How are you? You're in Providence.
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask Jim, have you ever been to Lisbon? You would love Lisbon.
I have not, and tell me why. I know what the answer to my own question is, but I'd like to hear you say it. Why would I love it?
Because I was there with my family a year or so ago, and it was amazing. Like, people eat outside 24/7. You'd go out for breakfast, and there'd be people sitting out having breakfast. You know, it's a beautiful city, and I agree with you. It's a eating outside when the weather's nice. It feels like a very social thing to do.
Now, could you explain to me why do you?
Very European.
Could you explain to Marjorie, because you're as into this as I am, Bob? Could you explain to Marjorie why an occasional exhaust pipe is a small price to pay for the joy of eating outside? Could you try to explain that to her?
That's a hard one.
You're an honest man, Bob. I'm going to try to get to Lisbon. Everybody's been giving me that advice, and Bob, you're added to the list. Thank you kindly. I
Rebecca
appreciate it.
from Florida has a theory, Jim. Jim enjoys outdoor dining because there's a greater chance a strong wind will blow some extra food to him from his neighbor's plate. How
Now,
about
here's
that,
an
Jim?
anonymous texter as your attitude. I'm outside delivering mail. I just took a bite of a granola bar. It's not that special. I got it, kind of thing. Can I tell you, let me give advice to people here since they didn't ask for it. If you're a little tentative about this, start with coffee. Start with coffee instead of the whole meal kind of experience. Just order a cup of coffee, take it outside, sit there for a half hour, and watch people walk by and tell me you don't feel great. And, you know, we talk about escaping the nightmares that surround us everywhere. Do you not find that to be a wonderful escape out in beautiful way? You don't care about this at all.
No, I do. I care about it very much. I'm reading the text.
Should we try Elizabeth? We lost you midway,
lost
Elizabeth. Let's continue.
You were raving about eating outside.
Continue, Elizabeth. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
take it away.
Oh, great. Okay, Jim, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Marjorie, I usually agree with you. You have to kind of earn your joy sometimes. And if occasionally you get a diesel truck, it goes by in 10 seconds. It's gone.
Great point, Elizabeth.
That's right.
You know, I'm a Southerner, but New Englanders, you know, we're tough. You have to earn it. And after being in the winter for all this time, you get to be outside, socialize,
I love this woman.
look around, people watch. It helps your imagination. It means it gives you possibilities.
Oh,
possibilities.
Things are possible.
I love that. It gives you possibilities. That's a great way
You know,
to
also, did you
phrase it,
notice
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth's voice slowed down?
That's right.
And how much more lovely it got as she was describing eating outside. Elizabeth, that was fabulous. I really appreciate it. Here's another Marjorie acolyte, anonymous text. I do not understand the fixation with eating outside, with the wind blowing, dust and another word flying around. I also do not understand people who make a production of drinking a cup of coffee. Oh, my God.
Okay.
Well,
Peggy Saugus is with you, Jim. After the New England winters, it's wonderful to be able to sit outside and watch the world go by. And Rue Claire in Gay Paris is one of my favorite places, says Peggy from Saugus. And Steve from Marlborough says, having a New York City dirty water dog with mustard, relish, and sauerkraut is the stairway to heaven.
It is the stairway to heaven. By the way, Hannah, our colleague, whose family is from Florida, says you don't need to travel to Europe. Florida has a thriving outdoor dining culture, very cultured place, just watch out for the pelicans.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if a pelican does its thing on you?
Well, yeah.
You're really in trouble.
Yeah. Well, seagulls, you have to watch them every second, too, especially this is a place down in Hyannis which has a big porch, Baxter's. And I think I read that was selling Baxter's. I hope that's not true. But anyway, a big, huge porch. And you have to kind of hunker down over your plate, because the seagulls just watch and they come down. I've seen them swoop entire platters of piece of sole. Someone's got a nice piece of sole.
Another reason not to eat outside,
well,
right?
it makes it more of an adventure during your dinner to kind of see if you can survive a seagull attack. Let's go to Phil.
Wait a second. Excuse me. Here is a perfect endorsement of my position from someone who you greatly respect. Our colleague Maddie, who's directing the show in the control room. Sometimes after the show, if the day has been stressful, meaning Jim has been complaining too much.
Which is every day.
I go to Long Wharf and, excuse me, I'm reading Maddie's text, not yours. I go to Long Wharf, says Maddie, and stare at the sea and silently eat an ice cream cone. It is healing. What, are you going to trash Maddie too?
I think that says it all. Because Jim has been complaining so much, our poor staff members are forced to go to Long Wharf and stare at the sea.
to heal. She said it's healing.
To heal.
Okay, I didn't see it quite that way.
Until she's back the next day trying to ward off the assault. That's good, Jim.
Okay, here's more
what's up. See what the texter says?
Yeah,
or somebody
keep reading
said, sounds like Maddie is suffering from trauma, Jim.
Okay.
She has PTSD from working here.
Browdy derangement syndrome. Anonymous texter, I love eating outside, especially when someone smokes nearby.
Yeah.
Anonymous texter, Jim likes to eat outside because it's easier to dine and dash. Dine and dash is one of the great expressions of all time. Let's go to Phil and Danvers. You are next. We're talking about the joys, at least one of us is, of outdoor dining. Hi there, Phil.
Hi. I like Marjorie a lot.
You do?
But let me get off speakerphone. I think
Please,
it's an echo.
That's okay,
I like
Phil.
Marjorie a lot.
Yep, thank you.
But this time I disagree. I agree with Jim.
Okay.
And I try not to make reservations outside at restaurants along the expressway during rush hour. So I'm sorry, Marjorie. And I think this time, Marjorie, you're sort of being a party pooper.
I'm being a party pooper, Phil.
That's being nice, Phil.
Maybe I'm just taking the opposite position of Jim to keep things interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on, just to make it interesting.
I think she's a misanthrope.
So you're going to take a beating today, Marjorie.
That's right. I'm going to take a beating, but
Sorry about that.
That's okay, Phil. I can take it.
Phil, now here's a friend of ours, Josiah, who just texted and says, you guys have to cut out that car horn beeping sound effect. I thought I was about to be in an accident 5 times. I mean, that is the problem.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Listen to this one. This is a good one from Jason and Newton. Outside in my backyard, sitting in an Adirondack chair after work, watching the kids run around while sharing a beverage with my spouse. Are you kidding? The absolute best.
Okay, listen to the other
That's a
side.
very nice one.
I can't, but you started something horrible here. Anonymous texter. I am the person waiting for 2 hours for Jim to finish a cup of coffee and leave so I can eat my dinner before the restaurant closes.
Oh.
Here's a good one. Chris from Boston. Eating outside in Provincetown and watching the crowds go by or catching an outdoor drag show is one of the great summer delights. That is totally and completely true. Another great community to eat outside in Provincetown, anywhere on the Cape, actually. Dawn, anywhere. Dawn and Chelmsford, we're talking about the joys of outdoor eating. Hey there.
Hi, how are you?
We're great.
So my daughter and I, and sometimes my son, but my daughter and I eat outside as much as possible, and we won't use our cell phones. In fact, that was her idea. She's only 25. She doesn't even like it if I pick up my phone to see if my son's texting me from work. So we just talk. We'll talk about anything and everything. We people watch. It's our favorite thing to do, and I think it's the best.
That was another lovely call.
That was beautiful.
Very
you said
lovely
it
call.
beautifully. Now,
here's the other side of the coin, Jim.
you're going to read this email. I can explain that one.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Okay.
Will you call the show, whoever
Here's
you
an
are,
anonymous
texter?
I can explain why you might want to think twice about outdoor dining. Unfortunately, the air you breathe is not clean. It is full of the smallest particles of pollution.
Smallest.
The smallest particles of pollution called PM 2.5, the ones most dangerous to human health with cardiovascular and pulmonary consequences. But maybe if you absorb lots and lots of them, there will be fewer for me to absorb. The black dust isn't just dust. It is poison, especially if it's coming from diesel trucks, Jim. It's killing you.
Can I tell you, I really hope I get to go to a cocktail party with that person, because that person is really, really a fun person. That was a beautiful text. Thank you very much. 877-301-8970. There is
here's a good one.
That will deter me from... Go ahead.
Here's a great point. If you have a dog, this person says, I love eating outside with my dog laying at my feet, enjoying his own treat. Oftentimes, you can bring your dog to outdoor restaurants.
Oh, and now you're okay with it?
Which is very nice. Well, I enjoyed that while my little dog was still with me.
Actually, I had another
dog. Or when I'm watching my kid's dog. You know, that's kind of nice to sit outside with the dog.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, let's go to Pam in Dartmouth. Hi, Pam.
Hello, Pam.
Oh, hey, thanks for taking the call. And I normally, like your other callers, agree a lot with Marjorie. And Jim, I'm with you on this one.
Thank you.
And picking up on the dog theme. In Dartmouth, in our little village of Paidnaram, there's a coffee shop. Yeah, on the coffee shop on the corner that has a patio. Full disclosure, it's my daughter and her partner's coffee shop, but they have a good dog vibe there, and really only good, well-behaved dogs. People take well-behaved dogs there. There's never been a skirmish. But here's the thing: the big thing has been community. In all these tough times that we're all living through, people sit out there and they've been dying to get out after a tough winter and see all their friends or people they don't know that well and they reconnect with. And after 37 inches, we had the record of snow in Dartmouth. My daughter and her husband couldn't get in fast enough to plow it out. All the community came in and shoveled it out so that it could open back up in the blizzard. So there's community. It's all about community and friendship and joy.
That was a beautiful, beautiful,
and also,
beautiful phone call.
Pam, for people that don't know, Paidnaram is a beautiful, quaint, gorgeous little section of Dartmouth, which is a nice... very nice place.
In addition to Pam's
Baxter's is being sold, apparently. Oh, no.
Sad. Now, in addition to Pam's beautiful explanation of why this is so great, Seth in Rhode Island has this incredibly, almost tear-producing text. Listen to this. This is from Seth in Rhode Island, Marjorie. I'm drunk on the porch, catching the breeze across my exposed nipples. Is that... Now, that doesn't have any appeal for you at all? Seth, that is lovely. Thank you.
I think I won't be following in his footsteps anytime soon. Let's put it that way.
And Paulie on YouTube also makes a wonderful point I wish I had thought of. With gas soon to be $5 a gallon, you'll soon be able to dine in the middle of a street with no cars.
Oh, yeah.
That's another beautiful thing.
Somebody texted a little while ago how they love sitting outside and watching the world go completely to hell. That was a good one, too.
Kate in Concord, welcome to the show, Kate. Hi.
Hi, I appreciate all the odes to sidewalk dining, but I do want to ask you, have you ever been on the rooftop of Daedalus for a drink in the summertime?
Of course, in Harvard Square you're talking about.
Is that great? I've never been there.
Absolutely.
Fabulous.
Tell us. The high point of my summer.
Tell us. What's so great about
it? To have the breeze and the company, it's just a lovely experience. There's also a place in Harvard Square, I think it begins with an F. It's a Mexican restaurant. Also has rooftop dining.
Felipe's, yep.
That's it?
Yep.
Those are the two I know about.
By the way, they're great, and those are two perfect examples. We should have asked people to name places they go they love. That was great, Kate.
There's a
Thank
million
you for
of them.
sharing that. We really appreciate it.
Where was that story we had? It was from the Globe.
Almost everybody.
Yeah, they have.
Except in the North
it's
End,
from April
limitations.
17th. Want restaurants with outdoor seating? A guide to Boston's best. Kara Baskin wrote it. We've had her on the show. She's a great food writer.
You know what? Also, by the way,
they list all the great
you're
places
complaining
to eat.
about outdoor dining.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned another benefit. Not only is it wonderful for the customer, like life-affirmingly great.
It's life-affirming.
It's great for the restaurant because they get extra seats.
That's right.
So they make extra cash, you know?
No, yeah, and remember during the pandemic, that was the only thing they could do. I'll never forget the time going through the pandemic where you couldn't go anywhere. We're walking with the dog in South Boston, and you saw all these people sitting in a big circle on the beach with their parkas and their hats on, in little beach chairs, and they're all sharing sandwiches. And it was outdoor dining, and it was about, I would say, 35 degrees.
Speaking of South Boston, anonymous sector, nothing better than a lunch, dinner, or snack at Sully's on Castle Island, watching the planes land at Logan, the seagull taking your dog, whatever it is. By the way, you know where I went? You're going to be shocked.
Seagulls are tough out there. That's a great place.
I went on the second day it
Sully's,
opened for the season.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Fried clams and a hot dog, sat on a bench.
Yep.
And just took in the world, Marjorie.
You just took in the world.
And I came in, by the way, this is for Maddie, our
watch
colleague.
The clouds go by.
I complained 3% less the next day as a result of that incredibly important experience.
Also, they have a great big playground there, so the kids can go, and it's a great place to walk around, too, and you can see the water.
You know what I did after I ate the hot dog and the clams? I went upside down on the monkey bars there. It was fabulous. I hung for like an hour. It was great.
Yeah.
Okay, Edgar,
somebody else said that's not what happened, that you took in the world and then texted us all your issues, Jim.
Maybe I did. Edgar, I am betting, and I hope you don't disappoint me. This is Edgar B. Herrick III from the Curiosity Desk coming up after us. I'm guessing you're an outdoor dining or coffee drinking aficionado. Yes,
love. We need more of it. I always think about, have you ever seen 1955 movie Summertime with Katharine Hepburn where she goes to Venice?
No.
She's like a single woman from Ohio. She's vacationing in Venice. And there are these scenes on the Piazza San Marco there where the whole piazza is filled with tables and there are waiters coming back and forth and everybody's outside dining and there's music. And it's just like every time I see that, I'm like, why can we not have more of that here?
They do have much more of it in Europe in general.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's not as cold.
No, we're catching up here, by the way, and we forgot to mention some of the streets closed, thanks to me, like Newbury Street and others in Boston and whatever. What are you doing on the show there, Edgar?
Well, something that I guess for some people might enhance their outdoor or indoor dining experience of psychedelics.
Psychedelics.
No, but in all seriousness, we're going to talk about psychedelics. We're going to look at last month's executive order from President Trump. We're going to talk a little bit about what it means and doesn't mean. And then we're going to also talk with some folks from the Center for Neuroscience of Psychedelics at MGH here in town and the kind of research that they're doing there.
Terrific.
Oh, that should be good because a lot of people think it's a great for mental health stuff, right?
We're going to find out more.
Yeah.
Remember we had one of the, Michael Pollan, we had right after he wrote that book, was one of the first people. In any case, Edgar, we'll be listening. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Indeed.
Can I tease something that a friend of ours is doing, Marjorie?
Yes.
Lucy Whiteman, who we have known for years, is a good buddy of both of ours. Many of you know her as Princess Cheyenne. She was on with us when her great memoir came out last year. It's called Princess Cheyenne, My Life as Boston's Most Famous Stripper. It is a spectacular story that she tells beautifully. She is talking about her book tonight at the Boston Public Library, this branch, 6 to 7. It is free, but you got to register. Again, free. Lucy will be presenting Princess Cheyenne, My Life as Boston's Most Famous Stripper. You do have to register. You Google, because I don't know the website, Google Princess Cheyenne and Boston Public Library, and the site will come up.
Yeah, she did do a great job with that book. It's a
wait. It's tomorrow night. I'm sorry.
Tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow night. Whoops. It's Wednesday night here at the library. Whoops. Thank you.
Okay. Wednesday night. Thank you all for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Thanks to people who came down to the Boston Public Library. Keep up with this 24/7 way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, Li Fung of the United Nations Office of Human Rights in Sudan joins us to discuss the civil war and starvation there, which is a tough one. Plus, national security expert Juliet Kayyem, CL for Inari, the garden lady, is going to join us to talk about her new book all about hydrangeas. Our crew, Zoe Matthews, Cole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Ariana Gonzalez, our engineer John LaClaw Parker, our executive producer Jane Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, especially Matty Guy, who had to go down by the waterfront with an ice cream cone to recover from day at this show. Plus, Bill Francis, Juan Jose Cadena, our host of the Newsview Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk. That was with Edgar B. Herrick III, talking all about uses of psychedelics. It starts right after us here at 89.7 GBH and the Culture Show. With Henry Santoro sitting in for Jared Bowen. Henry and the Culture Show starts at 2. He's going to speak with Keith Lockhart to preview the pop spring season at Symphony Hall, including the July 4th fireworks spectacular. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
Thank you so much for tuning in
Bye,
today.
everybody.
Hope
Thank
you can tune in tomorrow. Have a great day.
Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's how-tos and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Safety Insurance, offering auto insurance policies designed to help for when the worst happens. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance. Safety Insurance will help you manage life's storms. And MIT Sloan Executive Education. Their non-degree executive courses are led by MIT Sloan faculty and are designed to provide a targeted and flexible means to future-proof your business and career. Executive.mit.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, the FDA just made it easier for researchers to study the health impacts of psychedelic drugs. You've probably heard people talk about the potential benefits to mental health, anxiety, but today we meet a man whose work involves studying the impact of psilocybin on, among other things, IBS. Then from IBS to BMI, body mass index. For years, it's been a key health indicator for physicians. But how did it become a shorthand measure of overall health? And is there a better way? Plus, there's new research getting a lot of buzz related to bumblebees' ability to keep rhythm. We meet an incredible group of scientists over at Tufts who've been on the bee beat for years. We'll talk about what we, as humans, can learn from our striped, pollinating, honey-making brethren. That's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Voters are heading to the polls in Ohio and Indiana today for primary contests. NPR's Stephen Fowler reports previous decisions made about redistricting will play a role in key races.
After an effort to redraw the U.S. House map in Indiana failed last year, President Trump now seeks to oust several incumbent Republican state senators who helped defeat the plan. In Ohio, new House maps were required by law. Those minor changes make re-election slightly harder for two Democrats and easier for one Democrat. While the primaries for Ohio's Senate and governor's races aren't competitive, Trump's record low approval ratings, coupled with Democratic enthusiasm, has both parties looking ahead to an expensive clash in November's midterm contests. Stephen Fowler, NPR News.
Michigan is holding a special election for state Senate in the 35th district, which determines control of the state's upper chamber for the remainder of the year. Democrats are attempting to retain their slim majority. Georgia officials are attempting to block the Justice Department from getting hold of the full roster of thousands of volunteers and staffers who worked the 2020 election that President Trump alleges was rigged against him. The DOJ's request went public yesterday when Fulton County officials filed a motion challenging the subpoena. The Trump administration's view appears to be that the U.S. ceasefire with Iran is still holding, despite the latest clashes. At the Pentagon today, General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said Iran has fired at commercial vessels 9 times and seized 2 container ships since the start of the truce. Kane also says Iran's recent acts of aggression are below the threshold of restarting major combat operations. President Trump at the White House a short time ago.
Nobody's going to challenge the blockade, and I think it's working out very well. We're going to see. I can say this, Iran wants to make a deal.
President Trump taking reporters' questions after signing a proclamation restoring the Presidential Fitness Test Award. It is getting more expensive to use residential air conditioners in the summer. NPR's Rebecca Hersher reports the cost of cooling an average house has risen by more than a third since 2020.
The cost of cooling your house is rising because electricity prices are going up. That's because of a combination of higher fuel costs, increased electricity demand from AI data centers, and inflation. A new report from the National Energy Assistance Directors Association warns the cost of cooling an average home in the United States will be about 8% higher this summer compared to last summer. The high cooling costs come as millions of people in the U.S. are already struggling to afford basic food and transportation, with high gas prices and grocery prices straining family budgets. Rebecca Hersher, NPR News.
This is NPR News.
And from the GBH Radio Newsroom in Boston, I'm Judy Ewell. School officials in Melrose say a child has died after sustaining serious injuries when a tree fell on the playground at the Winthrop Elementary School yesterday. Another student and an adult were treated for injuries and released. The victim's name has not been released. Counselors are providing support to students and staff, and the investigation into the tragedy is ongoing. Officials monitoring air quality in Westport say there are no elevated readings 1 day after a massive scrap pile fire. Residents were under a stay-in-place order because of the smoky fire yesterday. Fire Chief Dan Baldwin says the location of the scrapyard made it a tough fire to fight.
The biggest problem we had, or the challenge that we had, was the size of the pile. The reach of the ladders was becoming difficult and challenging, getting to the back side of the pile. We don't have 360 access due to swamp area and wooded area, so where you can only hit it really from one side.
The chief says the fire does not appear to be suspicious. They're still investigating what caused it. New rules could be on the way for drivers of micro-mobility devices on Massachusetts roads. Governor Maura Healey is proposing changes for drivers on e-bikes, mopeds, and scooters in the Ride Safe Act. The governor says while she supports the devices as a mode of affordable transportation, legislation to regulate them will strengthen public safety. The bill proposes minimum age requirements, helmets for riders, lights, reflectors, and braking systems to prevent crashes. A Tuesday afternoon warm-up, mostly sunny, highs to 80 degrees. Southwest wind gusts of 23 miles an hour. Clouds tonight, lows in the 50s, right now 77 in Boston.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include United States Postal Service, dedicated to putting reliability at the core of USPS Ground Advantage to help businesses operate smoothly. More at USPS.com/Ground Advantage.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I am Edgar B. Herwick III. We are live on GBH 89.7 and streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Last month, President Trump signed an executive order to accelerate the review and approval process for psychedelic treatments targeting mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to meet a researcher right here in Boston who specializes in psychedelic treatments. But first, we want to make sure that we have our hands around what we're talking about from a policy standpoint and what happens. So, with us over Zoom to explain the change and what it means on a very practical level is Genny Canter. Genny's an associate professor of public policy at the University of Southern California. That's USC. Genny, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Hey, Edgar. Thanks. Happy to be on.
So, even folks who do follow the news and are following politics, at least loosely, the headlines come fast. It's fast and furious in Washington. So for those who have no idea what we're talking about relating to an executive order that was signed recently by President Trump about psychedelics, what can you tell us about it?
Okay. Well, there are a couple of different pieces of the executive order. I'll just highlight some of the most important ones, I think. So as you mentioned, the purpose is to really increase access to psychedelic drugs to treat serious mental health conditions like treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, also addiction, substance use disorder. And so I think the two biggest features of the executive order are first, what we call a rescheduling of the psychedelic drugs, psilocybin, methadone. They are currently illegal. And the reason they're illegal is because there's no accepted medical use. There's a high risk of abuse, high risk of dependence and addiction. And so those classes of drugs are called Schedule 1. So psychedelic drugs are Schedule 1. You can't use them. It's illegal for you to just generally use them, even for treatment, actually. So one of the things that the executive order does is it authorizes the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, to reschedule these drugs. So conditional on clinical trials showing some evidence of therapeutic value, they can reschedule the drugs to a different class that allows greater access because now there's some accepted medical use. So that's the first important thing, just to lower the barriers to access. And the second thing, as you alluded to, is what the order does is it authorizes FDA use of these new vouchers called Commissioner's National Priority Vouchers, or as its friends call it, CNPV. It guarantees super fast review of drugs for approval. I hope we'll get into that, but essentially puts the review process of these drugs on steroids.
Okay. Yes, we're definitely going to get into the Commissioner's National Priority Voucher and what the super fast review means. But first, one question I have, and maybe this is a silly question, but when we talk about access, being increased because they've been rescheduled. So is that at the consumer level, or which is to say, when you say, all right, this is an illegal drug, right? So, okay, I can't take it or I can't in theory buy it. But does that illegality also apply to researchers, which is to say, or is it somehow different for a researcher than it might be from an end user or just a regular person who's saying like, hey, I want to take this either for medicinal or recreational purposes?
Right. No, absolutely. So medical researchers, drug companies who want to evaluate the drug for some therapeutic use can still get access to the drug. So the scheduling primarily refers to general use. You can't, maybe you can go to your street corner and get it, but you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to be able to, right?
Yes. But having said that, there are still very high barriers, even for the companies themselves. So this will actually help improve access for the companies that want to take a look at these drugs.
Okay. So in theory, this should change the world for researchers as well as potential patients.
Absolutely. Further downstream for patients. Yes.
All right, let's get into the CNPV, as I'm going to call it, because it sounds like you are friends with the CNPV. Hey. So what is this? I mean, that just sounds like a lot of words coming at us. But as you say, it somehow relates to the speed with which any of this stuff gets looked at, gets reviewed, and potentially gets brought to market. Is that it?
Exactly. So we're not exactly friends, but we are kind of maybe frenemies. So so just to provide context for those who aren't in the know about drug approval, the traditional drug approval review time is about 10 to 12 months. So about a year, a little under a year. There is actually a faster review called priority review, which takes 6 months, but that's usually sort of authorized or given after the application has been submitted. So the FDA has reviewed the packet, reviewed the data, reviewed the study design to make sure everything is, high quality. And then if the drug meets an unmet need, it can designate it for priority review, which is 6 months. So that's sort of the best we've been able to do so far. The CNPV is, and I should mention, it's much broader than psychedelics. So it was introduced during the second Trump administration about a year ago. And what it does is two things: shortens the review time, guarantees a shorter review time of 1 to 2 months, which is unheard of, certainly in the U.S., as I explained, but also elsewhere in the world. And the second part of it, which is the most important, is that you're eligible for it if you meet certain criteria, which essentially boils down to what the administration cares about. So things like if you promise to, move your drug production to the United States for some kinds of drugs, if you're willing to cut a pricing deal, or there's also a clause for, public health crisis. And so the analogy I like to, the analogy that comes to mind, I guess, related to this is, suppose you're waiting in the TSA line. It's 30 minutes, like the way it usually is, and you're waiting for your full body scan, your shoes are off, and then this friend of the pilot gets waved through by TSA.
Yeah.
And everyone's looking in. Yeah. And the TSA person says, "Oh, it's all right. He's cool, bro." And so you're like, you can see why this problem or this program raises some concerns.
And so is it that aspect of it that leads you to say the word frenemies rather than friends?
So many. So that is one important part of it. So, but I would say, there are a couple of things that raise concern. So certainly the short review time, I think, is most people think, and not just myself, but most people who are FDA watchers think it's infeasible, especially given that the staffing cuts of like a third of the FDA because of DOJ. And so we have to question, is it going to be sufficiently rigorous? Are we going to, might there be safety concerns? And there's no opportunity in that window. Sometimes the FDA can convene external advisory committees to get external advice, expert advice. So that short review time doesn't allow for that kind of expert advice gathering. I would say political interference is a big issue. It's not the way the drug approval process was designed. And I think both drug manufacturers and the public view it as unfair, inconsistent, non-transparent. And what I worry about is actually even further downstream is the public trust, right? So certainly skepticism about the drug review process overall. I think that has big knock-on effects to other drugs. And I would also say, even though the goal is to help drug manufacturers, it actually works against them, ironically. So if there's skepticism about the process, there's going to be skepticism about the drugs if the review is perceived as being rushed or less rigorous, or the drugs are perceived as being less safe. And in addition, if there is really true lowering of standards and more safety events, the companies are going to be on the line in terms of liability.
Yeah, it calls to mind, I did a story once about the tags on mattresses, that you're not supposed to remove. And, the backstory of that is that in the 1920s, that people were putting all kinds of junk and garbage in mattresses, and it was actually the mattress manufacturing companies themselves who said, hey, we need some sort of something here that is going to instill public confidence in all of these well-made mattresses. And so they kind of got the ball rolling for regulating themselves. You're listening to The Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Genny Canter about Trump's executive order on psychedelics. And you talk about some of the concerns, but I do wonder, do you see some potential benefits here to this fast-tracking and rescheduling of psychedelics, for, it sounds like research and potential use?
Absolutely. I would say the key pro is exactly as the sort of headline purpose of the executive order is, and that's just improved access to psychedelic drugs for treatment of really difficult mental health disorders. But having said that, I think there are sort of two caveats. One is, sure, it's guaranteeing a faster review. It's not guaranteeing the access, because the agency could always look at the packet and say, sorry, it's not meeting our standards. And I think the second concern is, why exactly are we privileging this particular class of drugs? If the focus is really on this mental health crisis, as the executive order says, if the focus is on these disorders, why not support fast approval for any drug, regardless of mechanism or type or even device? So there seems to be a level of arbitrariness related to this approach.
So that leads me to a final question, which I'm really interested in asking, which is to say, should we be viewing this? Is this a political story? Is this an economic story? Or is this a healthcare story?
Great question. All three, but I would say the hierarchy has got to be, it's a political story. So it's difficult to see. So if these drugs are safe and effective, and I think many of us hope that they will be, they will pass the traditional review process and give patients more confidence in that process. It's hard to see why we need to go through some contrived speed dating process to get to the same outcome we would have gotten through a regular review process.
All right, that's Genny Canter, Associate Professor of Public Policy at the University of Southern California. Genny, thank you for sharing your time and expertise to help us make sense of this today on the Curiosity Desk.
Great to be here. Thanks.
All right, we're going to stay on this topic, and with us now is Franklin King IV. King is the Director of Training and Education at MGH's Center for the Neuroscience of Psychedelics. Franklin King IV, as Edgar B. Herwick III, I'm very impressed that you're a 4. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Well, I left that off my bio, but I guess you found it somewhere.
We're always on the lookout for the number, That's just kind of how we do it here. So, we were just talking there, about the new executive order, potential changes in the sort of processes by which the kind of work you're doing, is going to happen. Does it have any impact for you in your work at the Center for Neuroscience of Psychedelics?
Yeah, so I would say the direct impact is minimal. Nothing's going to change in terms of the work that I'm doing now. From my standpoint, I think the single biggest thing that this executive order does is simply makes an announcement coming out of the federal government that this is an area of priority for future research. And one of the things that was mentioned, it's other than the ARPA-H clause, there's nothing specific in terms of what NIH is going to fund. But if you actually watch the signing ceremony, there was a lot of discussion among the heads of NIH and NIDA, Nora Volkow, Jay Bhattacharya, et cetera, about increased funding for research with psychedelics. And this is something that those of us who worked with psychedelics for a long time have been hoping for from the NIH. There's been very few grants that have supported this. Most of this research is either pharmaceutical company derived or philanthropically derived. So there's very little federal support. And I think that's going to start to change because this announcement really shows that this is an area where more resources are going to be dedicated. So I think, in terms of the downstream ramifications of this, it's very positive, and I was very glad to see it.
So let's talk about the research. What are you doing? What is the work that you're doing?
So I'm involved in a couple of studies. One we just finished the main phase of, and that's a study of psilocybin with psychotherapy for irritable bowel syndrome. So that was an open label study. That means everybody gets that active dose. There's no placebo. It was a safety and feasibility study. And in that study, we looked at giving people who had treatment refractory IBS. They had to have not responded to other treatments, 2 doses of psilocybin embedded in a sort of conventional psychedelic therapy protocol, and looked at the outcomes. We're about to start another study looking at MDMA with therapy for fibromyalgia. So that's going to start, could be as soon as later this month. So there's a lot of excitement about getting to that point. And then there's some other projects that we don't have IRB approval for, but we have funding for. So I think, there's a lot that's going on, and I'm only speaking for myself. I have colleagues, who are embarking on a number of other psychedelic studies, who have psychedelic studies underway. And we're in the process, actually, of opening an MGB-wide psychedelic research center. So stay tuned on that for more announcement.
So I just want to talk about, this is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, I think a lot of the talk around using psychedelics as medicine, I think, is largely centered around the idea of mental health stuff. But you're talking about IBS, you're talking about fibromyalgia. Is this something that surprises people when you tell them that you're in research for psychedelics and you're looking at it for these kinds of conditions?
I think some people will be surprised, but we know that there's a great deal of interaction between mind and body, and for some conditions, that relationship is likely more significant than for others. And so there's a great deal of conditions that are sort of treated by medicine, but that we link to a varying degree to psychological distress, to history of trauma, to sort of coping style. And so we know that that these are things that psychological interventions can be helpful for, at least in a certain subset of patients. So that's kind of the genesis behind these studies, an area of interest of mine as well.
Do you think, for you and like among your colleagues and your contemporaries, I mean, is there any kind of stigma around the fact that you're doing work in psychedelics, or in the world of science and scientists, is it like, of course?
I get asked that a lot, and I would say, the answer is no. Certainly not around MGH or around the overall institutions in Boston. I think there's been a lot of interest in psychedelics for several years. That's partly because the chair emeritus of my department, Jerry Rosenbaum, opened the center in 2020. And I think, the other part is that, MGH gets a huge amount of research money. It's a research hospital, it's a scientific institution. And the question isn't, forcing the answer, do these work? The question is, can we study them, and can we see see if they do work? So I honestly have never really experienced stigma, particularly in the last 6 years with regards to psychedelics. I've heard from other people at institutions that are far away from here that may not be the same thing, but that's really not something that I've seen.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Franklin King, the Director of Training and Education at MGH's Center for the Neuroscience of Psychedelics. Are there things that you feel like misconceptions, or are there things that the general public you feel like you wish they better understood about psychedelics as a potential medicine, or just the research of psychedelics?
Yeah, I think for both of those, for the second part, I would say, just in regards to, the way the FDA is looking at these, that psychedelics do occupy a somewhat unique position, right? Because they are Schedule I drugs, which makes them incredibly difficult to research. There's a lot of additional safeguards that go into getting a Schedule I license to do this sort of research. And so I think one of the things that the executive order actually mentioned is that addresses the DEA and requests that it make research easier to do on these drugs. There's nothing specific there, but that could be something that more immediately could affect my work. I should have mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think, the other part of this is that, in contrast to, some novel antidepressant, the fact that these are in Schedule 1 does sort of set them apart, I think, in terms of, the implications of FDA approval or not. In terms of the things that I wish the public knew about these, really the single biggest and most important aspect of psychedelics is that these are extraordinarily psychologically and emotionally potent experiences. These are experiential treatments. There's a lot of argument in the field and disagreement as to how much psychological support or psychotherapy needs to go alongside the administration of the psychedelic. But nobody questions the fact that these put people into very, very intense experiential states. And those both offer a lot of therapeutic opportunity, but they also offer a lot of potential risk. And so people often both say, this was one of the most meaningful experiences of my lives, but they also will say that that was one of the hardest things I ever did psychologically or emotionally. And so I think, the language around psychedelics is often looking at the results as if they're these miracle cures that we can just sort of give to people and solve all these issues. And I think there's a risk there of kind of missing the fact that these can be quite difficult and probably, for some people walking in expecting one thing and getting a very different thing, that could expose them to a risk.
What kind of pressure does that put you under as a researcher in this space, like kind of understanding that? I mean, it's one thing to kind of design an experiment to figure out some sort of thing to say, does this work the way I think it's going to? It's another when you, as you say, that in the background, you're talking about somebody potentially having a very intense, life-changing experience. Like, that feels like it could be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And there's a lot, one of the things that begins when you enroll in a clinical trial or any research study is you have to be properly consented. You have to be told what are the risks, and you have to understand what the risks are. The person does who's essentially signs the consent form. And thus begins any clinical research study with participants, at least in the United States. There's a lot of discussion out there, actually, on does the sort of standard consent actually adequately capture the degree of intensity? Now, there's not a consensus on this, but, what you do the best you can. You try to teach people that, this could be an extraordinarily intense experience. But the question, of course, remains, how can you adequately describe something that people, once they've experienced it, repeatedly say is indescribable? How do you best prepare somebody for that? It's a really significant question. Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. That's Franklin King, Director of Training and Education at the Mass General Center for the Neuroscience of Psychedelics. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Edgar.
All right, coming up next, do you know where you fall on the BMI chart? Well, some doctors say that may not actually matter if what you're concerned about is overall health. I'm Edgar B. Horwick III. You're listening to The Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Henry Santoro in for Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, Keith Lockhart. He spent 3 decades leading the Boston Pops in both tradition and surprise, and orchestra at home with John Williams, Broadway, gospel, and rock. This spring, America's Orchestra returns with a spring season that stretches from Star Wars to St. Vincent. Keith Lockhart joins us to talk about what keeps the Pops popping. That and more is on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Modern Pest Services, providing integrated pest management for Boston homes and businesses. Modern Pest uses a prevention-first approach to seasonal pests to help target the source of the problem. Learn more at modernpest.com. And Bernadine Sung Megason at Dreamega International Realty, dedicated to helping buyers and sellers across Greater Boston, offering market insight and guidance through each step of the process. More at homesbybernadine.com.
You are listening to The Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Horwick III. We're live on 89.7 and streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, if you've been to the doctor for your yearly physical already, you've likely stepped on a scale to record your weight. And depending on who your doctor is, you may have had a conversation about where you fall on the BMI chart. BMI, or body mass index, is a metric that has been around for nearly 200 years. But in recent years, there's been a fair amount of discussion over how helpful it actually is as a measure of health. To learn more about that, we are joined now by Dr. Mara Gordon. She's a family physician and writer for NPR's Real Talk with a Doc column. Dr. Gordon, welcome back to the Curiosity Desk. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
All right, let's start with the most basic question. What is BMI?
So BMI is very, very simple to measure. It is a measure of weight for height, basically. And I think the reason that doctors use it so much is exactly because it is so easy
Simplicity,
to measure.
yeah.
Every doctor's office has a scale, and everyone sort of has an estimate of how tall they are, or it's pretty easy to measure.
So I want to get into the background of BMI a little bit, because it is kind of a long and winding road, right? It begins with like a Belgian polymath in the 1800s, which is sort of like a classic, like old time medicine thing. But that is actually where it starts, right?
It is. So it's been pretty wild to learn about this. It's so interesting. So it had its origins with this guy named Adolphe Quetelet, and I apologize in advance for my French accent.
Sorry,
it is
it's
not
better
good.
than mine. That's why I just said Belgian polymath. I didn't want to attempt to say his name.
Totally. And he was like a Renaissance man. So he was working in the 19th century. He was an astronomer, a mathematician, interested in lots of different things. And he was interested in how statistics reflect natural phenomena. And so he started describing bodies with measurements, right? And so he would measure people's weight, he would measure their height, and he sort of developed the Quetelet index, is what it was called, to help sort of describe what he called the average man. And he was really into this idea of an average man. And I will note that the average man was a man. He was an adult, he was white, probably wasn't elderly or a child or an adolescent, definitely wasn't a woman.
Right, so his sample size
yeah.
was already a self-selected, pretty specific type of man. So not a lot of diversity in his pool.
Yeah, and that's one of the big criticisms of BMI, is that it just doesn't reflect the diversity that we see in human bodies, which has existed for millennia. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, presumably, though, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like the sort of rise or uptake in BMI as something that was in the public consciousness is fairly recent compared to talking about the 1800s. So it doesn't sound like the story is that immediately after this Belgian guy worked out, oh, I have this measure called BMI, that it was all of a sudden being used by doctors around the world. Like there's a gap in there somewhere.
Definitely. So it kind of languished in obscurity for, a century and a half, until the 1960s and 1970s, when an American physiologist named Ansel Keys sort of rebranded it as the body mass index. And Ansel Keys had a lot of interest and actually contributed a lot to the scientific literature about cardiovascular disease risk. He was a pretty prolific scientist, and he gets a bad rap because BMI has kind of fallen out of favor, but he's actually contributed a lot of interesting stuff to the scientific literature. And notably, Ansel Keys, when he's sort of rebranding the BMI, he calls it BMI instead of the Quetelet index. He says, I'm not sure this is the greatest tool, but here's one option that we might have if we're interested in measuring adiposity. And that's what he was interested in, adiposity, which is
what?
A term, it's what we call body fatness. And it has to do with fatty tissue in the body. Yeah.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit, as you say, it's sort of fallen out of favor, and I want to talk about why. But you sort of touched on something there, which is to say, as we understand, if we're thinking about BMI right now, is it that there is something that it's a bad measure or an incomplete measure, or it's just that we've put an overemphasis on it and therefore, like, we've been using it wrong, so to speak?
Yeah, so Ansel Keys really proposed using it in sort of epidemiological research that looked at body size of populations and body size of populations over time. And then in the 1990s, this is so interesting, and learning about it has really sort of opened my eyes. In the 1990s, there was a really deliberate push to start classifying obesity as a BMI of 30 or above. So there was debate about how obesity was even defined. The metrics that we use in medicine, so overweight is over 25, obese is 30 or over. They're kind of chosen at random, and they reflect what we call in statistics round numbers bias, right? So like they were just easy to remember numbers.
Right.
So somebody chose them. And in the 1990s, there was a really deliberate push to start classifying obesity as a BMI of 30 or above, and to classify it as a disease. And this was really deliberately engineered by pharmaceutical companies because they were marketing weight loss drugs. And so they said, hey, if we want doctors to prescribe our drugs, we need doctors to, one, measure BMI, and two, define a BMI of 30 or above as pathologic, that obesity is all of a sudden a disease.
And was that one simple measure? It's just like one measure is the thing that like would be like, okay, now classified as obese. Like there wasn't like a combination of factors. It wasn't like this plus this plus this. It was just BMI of 30 or above.
It really was. And I think most good doctors who are thinking carefully about, holistic care for their patients, are not simply using BMI of 30 or above as immediately pathologic. Your body is immediately diseased if you sort of meet this measurement. But it was precisely because a BMI of 30 or above was so easy to measure that the pharmaceutical companies that were trying to sell weight loss drugs in the 1990s said, hey, this is going to be really easy for doctors to do. They have the tools in their offices already. It doesn't require blood tests. It doesn't require fancy equipment. It's just bang, you're done. And all of a sudden your body is pathologic, right? And therefore you need a medication.
So,
yeah.
I mean, and is where we stand today as we look at it, is the idea still generally speaking that if you are legitimately experiencing a situation where you would be classified as obese, that it is still do we still look at that and say, okay, that presumably could or will lead to bad health outcomes and ought to be something that we address. It's just that maybe BMI is not the way of simply getting there to say like that you have a problem that we need to address.
Yeah, so what I always say is, I say BMI is a really blunt instrument.
Yeah.
And is probably not appropriate for clinical medicine, where I have a patient in front of me. I'm trying to take into account all the nuances of their biological health, their psychological health, their social health, and help them live their best life, right? I think it can be helpful in epidemiological research, which was sort of its intended goal when Ansel Keys rebranded it as BMI in the 20th century. And it can be a helpful tool for looking at population sizes over time, right? But I think doctors are increasingly saying, hey, we really need to take a more nuanced approach. And I think that's for a variety of reasons. One, it's just not good enough, right? I always say, come spend an afternoon in primary care clinic with me. I see all comers. I see kids, adults, elderly, infants, and I will introduce you to so many patients who live in really small bodies who have really advanced cardiovascular disease or metabolic disease. And if I were just sort of using BMI as my only tool in my toolkit, I'd miss them and I couldn't help them, right? And then on the other hand, I definitely have patients who live in bigger bodies who have no evidence of cardiometabolic disease. So I think it's overly simple and might be helpful as sort of a population-wide tool. But when it comes to clinical primary care, when it comes to reducing risk of cardiometabolic disease, it's just not good enough.
So what are some better ways to measure overall health, or to measure a situation by which we say, okay, here we might need to take action and here we maybe don't have to?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for asking, because I think a lot of doctors can really do better with this. And it's not hard. It's stuff that we're doing anyway. I think it's just narrowing in so obsessively on weight, I think can be really stigmatizing to our patients. And we can do better. So in my practice, I typically focus on pretty easy to measure metrics that I think are more rigorous and give me just a much better portrait of my patient's risk for morbidity, right? And morbidity is a term that we use to mean, disease or sort of suffering from medical conditions.
Yeah.
So, when people first come in, we're checking their blood pressure. Blood pressure is really easy to measure. We do it in most doctors' offices. And like I said, spend a day with me in clinic. You'll see that blood pressure is definitely not a linear correlation between, the higher your BMI, the higher your blood pressure. It's all over the place. Blood pressure is really easy to treat, really easy to measure. I'm interested in insulin resistance. That's another thing that's pretty easy to test.
And how do you measure
blood
that?
Test. I usually use a hemoglobin A1C, or you can use fasting glucose, or you can use insulin tests. I typically do a hemoglobin A1C. I think that's most commonly used by most primary care doctors.
And why for you is that I was going to say, why is that a valuable measure for you?
Yeah, so what hemoglobin A1C tells us is a measure of your blood sugar over the last 3 months or so. And it gives me a sense of your glucose tolerance. And it gives me a sense of whether or not you have signs of insulin resistance. And what's so critical about that is insulin resistance can cause lots of cardiometabolic problems down the line. And so I want to catch it early. So if people are showing signs of prediabetes, that's a conversation. We're bringing them in. We're talking about things that they can do to reduce their risk of going on to develop diabetes.
All right. Well, I think we're going to leave it there. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us the skinny on BMI and helping us understand it a little bit better, how it's been used, and ways to be thinking about how we measure our overall health moving forward. Dr. Mara Gordon, a family physician and writer for NPR's column Real Talk with a Doc. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, why would a bee need to know how to keep rhythm? We'll ask one behaviorist. Puns practically write themselves. Now, I'm not claiming they're good. I'm just saying they write themselves. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH.
Every morning, you trust your alarm to wake you up. A cup of coffee to get things going. And a GPS to get you there on time.
Your route may be affected by...
For the news you need, trust GBH News.
Welcome to GBH's Morning Edition. Looking at local headlines this morning.
Get ready with us. GBH's Morning Edition with Mark Hers. Weekdays from 6 to 10 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
And White Flower Farm, offering home gardeners a wide selection of plants, tools, and supplies for the growing season ahead. More at whiteflowerfarm.com.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live on 89.7 and on youtube.com/GBH News. Last month, a new research study found that the humble bumblebee has a surprising knack for rhythm. Perceiving rhythm is usually associated with the bigger brained animals, but bees outperformed their half-inch size. It's peak spring flower season out there, and you've probably seen or heard a few bees buzzing about. So this got us thinking, let's just talk about bees for a while and learn about some of the incredible things that they can do. So joining us for that now in studio is Dr. Philip Starks. He's an associate professor of biology at Tufts University and leads the Starks Lab, where they investigate the behavior of bees, wasps, ants, hermit crabs, lots of critters. Sounds great, Dr. Starks. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I want to start just by talking about this study that caught our eye here, because it's like super cool. So this is a study where basically they work out that like not only can bees kind of clock a rhythm, right, which is something that it sounds like other insects can also do, but when they altered the tempo of that same rhythm, the bees could work out that was the same rhythm, and apparently that's something we don't see many insects do. Does that sound right? Am I getting that largely right?
You have that correct. They also were able to show that the bumblebees were able to translate a vibrational rhythm and then respond appropriately to a visual rhythm.
So wait, what do you mean by vibrational rhythm?
So they challenged them with vibrations. They taught them a rhythm through, like, think about the bass sound whenever you're listening to a
So
band.
they could feel the beat.
Yeah, yeah. And then when they showed them light at the same pattern, they responded to the light appropriately.
Cool.
I know.
So what is this for somebody who's deep in the bee world, who understands them, kind of in a way that most of us don't? What was your reaction to the study? Were you like, yeah, of course, I'm not surprised at all the bees can do this? Or were you like, whoa, bees, man?
Yeah, so both sides of that. I was like, oh, that's an amazing study. It's really unbelievably beautifully done. And also, I'm not terribly surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bumblebees do a lot of amazing things. We're looking at how they associate sound or shape or color or scent or tempo, right? How often the nectar is replenished. And they use these cues all the time in their foraging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really neat. So what else do we know about how bees behave? As you say, like, bees can do a lot of cool things. What are some stuff you think generally people maybe don't realize about how incredible bees are?
Well, if you don't mind me jumping to honeybees.
Go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, let's start there. Let's talk about the different kinds of bees. So honeybees are different than bumblebees.
Correct.
Okay. So how? When you jump to honeybees, what makes them different?
That is fantastic. I think the similarities is their eusocial systems. So they've got reproductive division of labor and overlap of generations and cooperative care of the young.
Yeah.
So that's unique. But we've got thousands of species of bee in this country.
Yeah, thousands.
Yeah. I mean,
Really?
right now, if you're out looking, you're going to see some workers and honeybees. You're going to see queens of bumblebees. You're going to see some carpenter bees, which are essentially bumblebee-looking crunchy things.
Yeah.
And you'll see lots of wasps. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the big difference, I think, between bumblebees and honeybees, they have a similar social system, but honeybees their colony will survive for years, and bumblebees are annual colonies. Which is why you're seeing queens right now with bumblebees and workers with honeybees.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. Can we? So when you talk, you sort of mentioned time, which I think is interesting. Like we've done a number of segments here on this show. We love kind of animal behavior stuff. And we talk to different folks who are studying animal behavior, and there was something that struck me about we were doing a segment. We were talking about laughter and whether or not apes or monkeys laugh or whatever. And the researcher we were talking with said something where she was like, well, in apes where we do see laughter, she was like, of course, we see more laughter in the young than we do in the older population. She's like, because that's how it is for everybody. The young people laugh and the older people don't. And for some reason that has really stuck with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just like humans, like animals obviously age and their behavior changes too. But when we get to the level of like a bee, for example, like, are young bees different than old bees? Like, do they change over time, or do they just kind of come into the world and they're the same for their whole lives?
Yeah, I'd like to put a pin in bumblebees for a second and then come to honeybees. Honeybees are super interesting in that the workers change their jobs as they age. So when they first emerge, they do lots of inside the hive activities, lots of cleaning of cells, tending to the queen and the like, nursing other bees, right? And then as they age, they move to things like guarding the hive and foraging. So when you're seeing foragers, those are the old bees. They're all female, but they're the old ones.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of changes happen at the same time. So they have changes in hormone levels, changes in immune development, changes in neurodevelopment. Also that when they are outside of the hive, they are most suited for foraging.
Wow. Interesting stuff.
But because you brought up play, let me jump back to bumblebees, because it was a beautiful study a while back, and they were able to show that the bumblebees will use small soccer balls, and they will push them around, and they'll do that for a reward. So just like rhythm, right? They'll play with a ball for a reward, and it turns out that they're happy to do it without the reward.
Because they just like doing it. They're like, this is cool. When you say soccer balls, what do you mean soccer balls?
It's teeny little balls.
Really?
Yeah.
What are they made of?
Well, I'm just like I don't know what they're made of. I'm guessing it's probably some type of insulation type stuff. But just little.
Like a tiny little ball.
Yeah, a tiny little ball. And the younger ones will do it longer without reward.
So there you go. So just like in apes and just like in humans, we see more play in the young. That's amazing.
I think it's really important to to not focus so much on humans, right? So we're surprised that other things
Yeah.
show at play, right? But that's just
So much hubris.
yeah. I'm not surprised that the bumblebee is able to understand rhythm.
Yeah.
Right. We like to think about, oh, it's because of our big brains, but
Yeah.
if you think about where we've looked for it, we've found it. And now we found it in these little bees with little brains. And maybe the idea is that this is a natural state that you see across the animal kingdom. We just haven't looked for it in a lot of places.
Do we have a sense of why, like sort of why, like why a bee might have rhythm? Is there like does it confer some benefit to the way a bee lives their lives?
Well, they do pay attention to changes over time.
Yeah.
Right. So they do pay attention to how quickly a flower can replenish its nectar. And they do pay attention to a lot of other characteristics that are associated with that type of reward. And that reward isn't lunch, right? That reward is survival for the colony. So it's really wrapped up in their evolutionary fitness. And it's not surprising that you would have a lot of redundancy in the system, right? Like scent is beautiful, and you might be able to orient really carefully with scent unless it's windy. And then it's rubbish, right? So then you need to fall back on a different characteristic. Like the redundancy in how they identify appropriate flowers is not surprising at all.
Huh.
To me. Or
Yeah.
I think to anyone who watches bees and bugs and things like that.
Yeah. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Tufts University biologist Dr. Philip Starks about bees. What does the overall health of bees look like right now in this area and in this country more broadly? I mean, a few years ago there was a lot of talk around colony collapse stuff. I mean, where do things stand right now? How do things look for bees?
I think things can be really challenging for bees. It's an interesting time. We're doing a lot more urban beekeeping. A lot of people want to have bees on their properties.
And is that a good thing?
I think
complicated answer.
It is a complicated answer. One, I've always found that when I have bees on my property, the diversity of life increases dramatically in my backyard.
Interesting.
Yeah, so all of a sudden I see dragonflies who are picking off my bees, and I'm seeing birds that are picking off my bees, and it's kind of spectacular.
Yeah.
But we are keeping them in food deserts, right?
How so?
Well, where are the flowers?
Yeah.
The flowers in the yards? Not usually. They might be in ornamental gardens, right? And even then, you don't have flowers that are consistent all over time, right? So you have boom-bust systems for them. And the diversity may not be appropriate. So if they're not getting enough nutrients, right? So we move them, for instance, to almond orchards, right, the size of Rhode Island. And the almond pollen doesn't have all of the essential amino acids for a bee. They can't develop on them.
Oh, really? So good for the almonds, not as good for the bees.
Bingo.
Wow. No idea. So how about in the wild, though, generally speaking, apart from us kind of engineering, the way they're living their lives, either by keeping them as urban beekeepers or, being an agriculturalist with a big space and kind of using bees to do some work for me. Just generally out there in the world, are conditions, we have climate change, we have urbanization, there's all sorts of stuff. How's it looking?
I think there's a lot of stress on bees, and I just want to say that we don't have very many feral colonies. They're much harder to find.
Really?
So most of the bees we have are managed, and not to be depressing. Really? And not to be depressing about this, but honeybees are a little bit like chickens and pigs. In other words, we have much higher population densities than the environment would support normally.
So is that all kinds of bees that are largely managed? Like I'm just kind of hanging out in my backyard and I see a bee come zipping by, and that's not necessarily a wild bee?
No, don't misunderstand that. The honeybees.
I see.
The honeybees.
Honeybees
but the
in particular.
bumblebees,
Bumblebees,
they're fine.
They're doing okay.
Wool-carded bees, all sorts of beautiful bees that you're going to see. They're doing all right. They could be doing better if we had a better resource base for them.
And when you say resource base, what do you mean? Just
wildflowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flowers that are blooming all year, right? A changing flower potpourri that emerges over time. Yeah.
What are some of those flowers? Like, what are some of the, like, if I'm just listening to this right now, I'm generally like down with planting flowers. I love bees. What are some good ones I can plant for bees?
No, I think that's a better question for people who work at the,
that's a flower person question.
That is. I'll send it to my colleague, George Elmore. But what I would say is native flowers tend to be very useful. And they tend to be hardier in this climate.
You're listening to The Curiosity. We're talking with Tufts University biologist Dr. Philip Starks about bees. But, one thing we mentioned in the intros, and you mentioned them too, is wasps. So can we talk about wasps a little bit? Like, they're relatives of bees. They're cousins? What's the deal?
Yeah, they're Hymenoptera, right? So wasps, ants, and bees, they're very similar. We've got some beautiful wasps around here. Some are really, really lovely. We've got a nice
I feel like I think of wasps as pretty evil. Like, I'm worried when I see a wasp. Am I wrong?
It depends. I mean, if you're looking at hornets, they're a little bit mean, wicked, evil, cruel, and nasty. But if you're looking at paper wasps like Polistes, they're fairly docile.
What does a paper wasp look like?
Well, they're all paper wasps. The Polistes is when you look up in the eaves of your house and you see an open nest. That's typically a Polistes wasp. Small colonies, maybe 50 individuals total.
Yeah.
They're really, really useful. They're so common with people that we've named one after us. It's Polistes dominula.
Because they're always hanging out in people's
houses. Because they live
houses.
in our structures, yes.
So I cut you off earlier. I think you were saying we have beautiful wasps around. What's beautiful about, what do you find beautiful about them?
This could be something that happens to people who've studied them, right? So if you look at their faces, the little face caps are different. The amount of coloration they have differs. Some of our native wasps have beautiful red marks on their gasters. They're just kind of stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat. That's cool stuff. Do you like bees or wasps better? For those who can't see, he's I can't tell if he's looking at me with an evil eye or he's considering the question.
I'm considering the question. I'm hoping they're not listening. I think that I probably I'm more emotionally connected to my bees.
Why?
There's something very special about working a hive, about opening up. You might have 80,000 workers and you need to work at their pace. So there's a bee speed about it. And they stay awake year-round, so all winter long you're worried that they're not surviving the winter. So you run out on a warm day just to make sure that they emerge so they can defecate, essentially, and go back into the hive. And it's, I think there's a real emotional connection between honeybees and their beekeepers in a way that I don't feel with wasps. No.
Yeah. You're listening to The Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Tufts University biologist Dr. Philip Starks about bees. How about, are there a couple, I wonder if there are like things you feel like the general population doesn't know about bees or understand about bees that you wish they did, like misconceptions or just things that you are oftentimes kind of going to people, no, bees don't do this, or yes, bees do this. Well, I don't understand why everybody thinks they don't or do.
I think something that you might find interesting about honeybees is they maintain temperature in the hive year-round. Their hive and their brood comb anyway is between 32 and 35 degrees Celsius.
How do they do it?
Oh, it's fantastic. They isometrically contract their large thoracic muscles to generate heat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they generate body heat to regulate it.
Yeah, better than my office.
Yeah. It's better than air conditioning. I kind of wish I could just sort of like squiggle around or something in my house and regulate the temperature.
They're spectacular at that. And they will use that temperature to give themselves a fever if they're infected. So they can elevate the temperature so that it's protective over their brood. They're fairly amazing animals.
All right. We're going to leave it there. That is Dr. Philip Starks. He is an associate professor of biology at Tufts University, leads the Starks Lab, where they investigate the behavior of bees, wasps, ants, hermit crabs, and more. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your love of bees.
Thank you for having me.
And that about does it for us. for now. Stick around for the Culture Show. Henry Santoro is in for Jared Bowen. He'll be talking with none other than Pops conductor Keith Lockhart about their upcoming spring season. As for us, the Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, Hannah Loss, and Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna are the queen bees in our little hive. Our engineers, John LaClaw Parker. Special thanks too to Andrew Massawa and Bradley Lewis. We will be right back here in 23 short hours on GBH 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. If you cannot wait that long, there is a podcast version of the show. You can check that out wherever it is you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Lyric Stage, presenting Something Rotten, a side-splitting mashup of 16th century Shakespeare and 21st century musical theater, now through June 7th at Lyric Stage Boston. Tickets at lyricstage.com. This month and every month, GBH is celebrating the achievements of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders that have enriched our history and culture. To learn more, visit gbh.org/AANHPI.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Henry Santoro in for Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, Keith Lockhart. The Boston Pops has long lived where symphonic sound meets pop culture, from film scores and Broadway show tunes to video games, anime, and TV. Lockhart joins us to preview a spring season built around the music people know, love, and want to hear live. Then we slip on a mask and enter the Paris Opera House by way of Masquerade, the off-Broadway immersive reimagining the Phantom of the Opera. It's a gothic, candlelit, and daring spin across salons, stages, and dusty back rooms. Tony Award-winning director Diane Paulus joins us to talk about turning Andrew Lloyd Webber's mega musical into an intimate experience. We'll wrap the show in Worcester, where baseball and poetry share the same field. The crack of the bat, how about that? The National Baseball Poetry Festival brings writers and fans together to celebrate the language of America's pastime, on the page and beyond the diamond. That's all right now, here on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Henry Santoro in for Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, and this you no doubt recognize as the theme to our ongoing series, Countdown to 250. It's our recurring drive into events leading up to the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country, which is, of course, culminating on July 4th with the Boston Pops Fireworks Spectacular on the Esplanade. And it is the quintessential, semi-quintessential, it's the quintessential semi-quincentennial centerpiece of the state's MA 250 celebration. Joining us for a preview of this and an overview of upcoming events and performances as part of the Boston Pop spring season is the maestro himself, Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart. Keith, welcome back to The Culture Show.
Thank you, Henry. Great to be here, and I can't believe they made you say that.
Can you imagine?
Fire the
Talk
writers.
about a tongue twister. And it's my first time co-hosting here, or hosting here, The Culture Show. So it's me and you, and here we are. The spring pop season starts Friday, May 8th. That's this coming Friday. A big one, 140 years of the Boston Pops. And you don't look a day over 139.
Sometimes I feel a day over 139. No, I haven't been there for all of that amazing history, but I've now been in there for a big chunk of it.
I know, 31 years.
Hard to believe.
So when a program like this is put together, it kicks off with Ray Chen. When a program like this is put together, who books the artist and how much say does the maestro have?
I'd say the maestro has quite a lot of say, but when we look at the overall whom we're trying to attract in the audience, who we think will do that, I take suggestions from a lot of quarters, and these days, as you'll certainly understand, I take them more and more from people who are 35 years younger than I am, because it's hard, no matter how hard you try and no matter how openly you listen to everything, it's really hard to stay on top of what's driving people these days. And we do try to keep a hand in that. We do also try to work with people we think are demonstrably good, have something to offer beyond the moment. But I listen a lot to our younger staff. I listen to my 2 teenage sons because they will roll their eyes, and I can tell from that that's not a good suggestion, at least from their point of view. But then I do also remember that teenage sons rarely buy the tickets.
That's true, they do, and but their parents do, and it's a very well-rounded spring season you have lined up.
I think we really got adventurous in a good way here. I think there are a lot of people whose voices have not been heard with the Boston Pops and on the Symphony Hall stage, but I think the through line is just a lot of people with a lot of wonderful things to say.
Right.
Incredible musicians and performers.
And what's very interesting about this season is you, as far as Broadway show tunes and TV theme songs, they're like game music, video game music and anime music.
The music associated with anime and video games is really almost 2 new separate worlds, in the same way that that movie music became in the mostly late 30s, 40s, 50s, became a whole new set of repertoire. And the thing is, I mean, my idea of video games ended kind of with Ms. Pac-Man. So I'm not on top of that. But when you dive into it, you realize there's really a lot of high quality and very beautiful expressiveness coming out of that genre. And a whole audience that is very hungry for that music because it's associated with things they find comfortable. So then what you say is, wow, if you love this, you should check this out too. And this is just as gorgeous.
And this is where Ray Chen comes in.
Exactly.
He is
straddling the worlds.
Yeah, opening night with violinist and online sensation Ray Chen. It's his Pops debut. The first half will be some classics, some light classics.
We're going to do the Saint-Saëns introduction around a Capricioso. The orchestra, we're going to play El Salon Mexico, with Copland keeping our kind of 250th American music thing going. And in the second half, he's going to play music from his new album, Player One, which is all music of anime and video games.
So let's give this a listen. It's from Ray Chen's 2024 album, Player One. He'll be making his Boston Pops debut, as we said, with you, Keith, at Lockhart on May 8th and May 9th. This is him performing I Remember My Name from the Netflix series.
Show. It's a wonderful incongruity, isn't it?
It really is.
He's never done most of the music he'll be playing from Player One live with orchestra before. It was done as a studio album. So this is really a new adventure for him as well.
And for you as well.
Yes, I'm really excited about this. I really think that this is, he is, what can you say about somebody who's, recording his online recording of the Sibelius Violin Concerto has 2 million views.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really
Very few of us in the classical music business can say that.
Well, you think you've heard every sound that there is that could come out of a violin, but then someone like this guy comes along and it's a whole new audio experience.
Yeah. Well, I think this is, it's, I started the season with this because I really think it's something we should be doing.
And then you're bringing in the superstar himself, Mr. John Baptiste.
Oh, John Baptiste is just, I've told several people, I stand by this, of all the very talented people I've worked with on stage over the last 45 years or so, he's probably the brightest light. I mean, it's just, you're afraid you're going to get electrocuted.
And who else are you looking forward to? We got Leslie Odom Jr., Pink Martini.
Pink Martini is back for the first time in like 15 years with us, and they're a great party band. And talk about, musical quality stuck in a really fun pop jazz kind of and Latin kind of framework. They're great. Jacob Collier has, is going to be. I'm not quite sure what that's going to be like. Actually, I mean, he's really a unique talent, but it draws huge interest in that one. St. Vincent for her first time with the Pops.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really there's a pretty good gamut here.
And Ben Folds.
He's
going to be jumping all over the piano.
Yeah, maybe. That's the John Batiste jumps all over the piano. So I guess we'll put out the industrial strength piano for this one.
Now, I know that you're on record as saying that you would love to get Bruce Springsteen to perform for the Pops, with the Pops. And you know that he's playing the TD Garden on May 24th.
I do.
And he also has a couple of days off prior to the 24th and a few days off after the 24th.
Have you been talking to the boss? Is this...
I have not, but you know who has, and probably your friend and mine, Peter Wolf.
Oh, wow, of course. And those old rockers they
hang together. They totally hang together. But is the word still out that you would still like to get Bruce on?
I hope so, but I've never done very well with that one, and it may just be one of those the bucket list things that doesn't end up in the bucket.
Yeah.
It's even Bruce's his daughter was in college here, just a few years ago, and even during that time we couldn't get him. So,
there are some that you
Bruce,
just can't
if you're listening.
Now, Keith, if we walked into your home right now. What's on either the turntable or in the CD player, or what's on your playlist?
What are these ancient words you're using? Like turntable. Well, the funny thing is, and this is something that people think, I'm making up, but very little, actually, because I don't listen to music when I'm not doing music, because I do so much music that if you don't clear it out, it becomes an annoyance and a distraction rather than something you love. But my wife loves to play music. She loves a lot of different things, a lot of R&B, a lot of more contemporary kind of stuff. She grew up in the 80s and 90s, and so the rotation is heavy that way. Also a lot of Latin stuff and Tito Puente and things like that. So there's a lot of, and my kids also have this incredibly I don't know how they did it, but my youngest, my 14-year-old, I was playing some deep tracks from Jethro Tull for him. And he was like, I said, and of course I'll play Aqualung. And he says, well, Dad, everybody knows Aqualung.
Now, you have shared a lot of information on this with Jim and Marjorie when you co-hosted and were a guest on Boston Public Radio. Are there any new developments or updates on the Andros Nelson's front?
Not to the best of my knowledge. I mean, there's what I have seen, in the media recently it looks like attempts to make new developments out of things that are there. And I have to say, I stand by what I said with Jim and Marjorie show. I don't think that any of the constituencies involved in this have handled it particularly well. But at the end of the day, what we have to do is get back together and talk about what the future of the organization is. It's a very emotional topic that has been handled in an overly emoted way. And it doesn't make any sense to me for them to continue to flail this out in public.
You have thrown out the ceremonial first pitch at Fenway Park more times than some pitchers have pitched there.
And with a similar record.
I don't know. You have a pretty good fastball. Most recently was a year and a day ago, May 4th, 2025, to mark your 30th anniversary at the Pops. You also threw out the first pitch in May 2012. In June of 2016, you threw out the first pitch on Star Wars night, also conducted the theme song that night. And then on September 24th, 2018, my wife's birthday, you and the great Tom Hamilton, bass player for Aerosmith, or as the kids across the bridge call him, Aerosmith, you two threw out the first pitch for the Grammys night at Fenway.
I remember that. It was the first time I met Tom. Actually.
He's such a great guy.
Yeah,
he's sort of he's the Charlie Watts of Aerosmith. He's the soft-spoken, Just, you know.
Yeah. I'd met Joe Perry and Steven Tyler before and worked with both of them actually, but I'd never met Tom. And you're right, comparatively, he's very standing in the background. But I love being, you know, the first time I threw out the first pitch, I don't remember which one that was, but the very first time I threw it out, I was so nervous that I stood on the sideline and threw with one of our younger staffers who had a glove, and I threw so long that I couldn't move my arm the next day. You know, I must have thrown 50. I must have thrown 50 pitches, and the last one was cool because Tech caught it.
Yeah,
so,
Jason Veritek.
Yes,
yeah.
and he, you know, he was like, Keith, not a bad pitch, and I love holiday pops. And I just thought, boy, you know, this is a great small town.
Well, with that said, I have a baseball here that I would like. It's a Major League Baseball.
You want me to throw it through that nice glass window over in the...
I want you to sign it, and I will put it with my collection of signed baseballs of major celebrities.
I am honored.
Let's get back to the spring season again. Again, you mentioned St. Vincent, but there's also this great night of music of Miles Davis and John Coltrane.
Oh, yeah. This is a really important night, and I guess the reason I always forget to mention it is because that is actually not with the Pops. That's enough with Terence Blanchard and Robbie Coltrane.
Right.
This is the 100th anniversary of both Miles Davis and John Coltrane. It's hard to imagine two more formative people in the history of jazz than those two. And Robbie Coltrane's son, and Terence Blanchard, you know, possibly the biggest name in jazz trumpeters in the American scene these days, are joining together with their band to pay tribute to him. And so it's part of the pop season. It's not, you know, I mean, Kind of Blue is one of my, if I were listening to music, Kind of Blue would be one of those things that was there.
Yeah, that's a desert island.
That's
LP.
Definitely one you'd have to save in your top 10. That and a good, you know, Mahler 3 or something, you know. But it's hard for an orchestra to do a proper tribute. We do actually have a wonderful piece that's based on the themes from All Blues, which is one of the tracks in Kind of Blue. But, you know, his music is so improvisatory. It's really hard to get 80 people to do that.
And perfect timing for early June, Pride Night.
Right. This is our third annual Pride Night, and I have to say it's won me over. I mean, I really, at the beginning, I thought, is this really going to work? Is this, are we playing music, you know, by people who identify a certain, what does this exactly mean? But it's turned out to be a celebration, and it's a celebration of, you know, allowing people to be who they were intended to be, you know. And last year we had Orville Peck, who was wonderful on stage. This year we're joined by the Boston Gay Men's Chorus. It's our first time collaborating since the year 2000.
They have been, and that chorus has been around
It's
forever.
really it's an institution here now.
Much like the Pops. I mean,
Yeah.
it has really been around
And
forever.
we've looked at for these last couple of years and said, well, you know, their big spring concert is like right when we're doing this concert. That seems like bad timing, but we wanted to do this because it's the beginning of Pride Month. And then we talked to them, and they were really excited to work with us. So them and Alex Newell, the Tony Award-winning star and the star of Shucks. And I think they and the chorus are really going to cement this as one of the traditions we're going to hang on to.
And wrapping up the spring season on June 6th, Gospel Night.
Gospel Night is the time to raise the roof in Symphony Hall. Don't worry, we'll repair it afterwards. But you know, with Tamil and David Mann returning, because last year they just broke all of our records, and it is really a joyful noise.
What is there one performance that you're really looking forward to?
Well, I have to say probably the very first one, which is too bad because I guess that means it'll be anticlimactic the entire rest of the year. But the Ray Chen thing, I think, is a really important statement, and I'm really looking forward to making that statement.
Well,
but all the way through the year is great.
We actually have another clip. This is another track from his 2024 Player One album. Here he is performing the Violin Concerto in D Major, Opus 35 from Korngold, Eric Wolfgang Korngold. He'll be making that Boston Pops debut with you May 8th, May 9th, and here it is. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you had to stop there. I could have sung through the whole thing for you.
Before I let you go, the Met Gala was last night. I don't know if you ever pay attention to the Met Gala. Have you ever been?
I have never been. I guess that should be another bucket list thing, too. Hey, somebody out there, invite me to the Met Gala.
What would you wear?
Oh, I don't know. I can't possibly compete with what I saw in the background on the TV this morning.
It was pretty amazing. I don't know if it's more difficult to get into those outfits or to get out of them at the end of the night. But those are some wild outfits.
It is kind of amazing. Well, you and I will go together. Okay?
There we go. We can go as one big cummerbund. Keith Lockhart is conductor of the Boston Pops. The Pop Spring season runs May 8th through June 6th at Symphony Hall with guests including, of course, the aforementioned Ray Chen, John Batiste, Leslie Odom Jr., St. Vincent, plus Film Night, Pride Night, Gospel Night. And you can find the full schedule and ticket information at the Boston Pops website. Keith Lockhart, thank you so much. It's so great to see you again.
Thank you, Henry. Likewise.
Coming up, the Phantom of the Opera is a haunting off-Broadway by way of reimagined immersive experience titled Masquerade. Tony Award-winning director Diane Paulus joins us for that conversation. She's next, right here on The Culture Show. Stick around.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
When you're getting ready for the day, get ready with us.
Welcome to GBH's Morning Edition. Thanks for having us with you.
GBH's Morning Edition with Mark Hurst.
Looking at local headlines this morning.
More local news.
More diverse voices.
More unique perspectives.
The gateway cities closer to Boston have seen a lot of investment. Others, particularly further west, haven't gotten that same level of investment.
GBH's Morning Edition. Weekdays starting at 6 on GBH 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News app.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Boston Ballet, presenting Spring Experience, a dynamic journey through movement, music, and emotions, including Jerome Robbins' celebrated Dances at a Gathering. Opens May 7th at Citizens Opera House. Tickets at bostonballet.org. And Harvard Museums of Science and Culture. 4 museums a short walk from Harvard Square, with exhibits ranging from stunning glass flowers to ancient Egyptian mummy cases. Learn more at hmsc.harvard.edu. And Moonbox Productions, presenting the 5th annual Boston New Works Festival. 7 original plays from local playwrights on 3 different stages at Arrow Street Arts, May 7th through May 10th. Ticket info at moonboxproductions.org.
The best way to support your GBH radio listening is by becoming a GBH sustainer. It takes just 2 minutes to enroll and a few dollars a month on your credit card. Small monthly contributions, huge impact. Learn more at gbh.org/sustainer.
And streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel, when the Phantom of the Opera lowered its chandelier for the last time on Broadway in 2023, it appeared a legend had met his last. But the Phantom has found a new way to haunt New York. He slipped back onto West 57th Street in a new guise. Masquerade, an immersive adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's blockbuster musical, The Phantom of the Opera, that can only be accessed with a secret password, where you step off the Manhattan sidewalk and are quickly deposited in the lush confines of the Paris Opera House, champagne in hand. Instead of sitting in the dark, you don a mask, join a small crowd, and proceed through a 6-story maze of candlelit salons, steep catwalks, and tension-filled dressing chambers as the performance unfolds all around you. Joining us to talk about this wild new way into the iconic show is Tony Award-winning director Diane Paulus. You know her, of course, as the artistic director of the American Repertory Theater. She's the director of Masquerade and worked for 3 years with composer Andrew Lloyd Webber to craft it. Diane Paulus, welcome back to the show. Great to see you.
Great to be here.
Well, what place did the Phantom of the Opera have with you even before you began to think about adapting it?
I mean, it's an iconic musical. You can't be in the theater world and not know it, breathe it, have heard it. I've had people audition for me using songs from the show. And I had also seen the film. So I knew of it very well and had experienced it. And then when it was announced to be closing, I went back and saw it again. And I'll tell you, the thing that I was so impressed by was how immersive the show was, Hal Prince production. It was so ahead of its time. From the second that chandelier resurrected and flew out over the audience, and the Phantom's voice being in surround sound in the Broadway house, and him haunting up in the proscenium. It had, I think, this immersive impulse, on Andrew and Hal Prince's part that showed me the DNA of what could happen with this incredible show.
And how did it happen? Did you just call up Andrew Lloyd Webber? How does it happen?
How does something like this happen?
Broach that with him?
Well, it was a turning point for this legendary show to close on Broadway, and Andrew wanted to do something with it. And the idea of maybe a pop-up event was surfaced, and then it became clear, if you're going to do an immersive version of Phantom of the Opera, let's do it, capital D, let's make it happen. And it so happened that this property on 57th Street, which, if people remember New York back in the day, it was the old Lee's art supply store. And I grew up in New York in the 70s. I went with my mother to that art supply store. That was a time when there was a 4-story art supply store. That doesn't happen anymore. To go and buy my fancy set of colored pencils. So I had been in that building. But it had been vacant and was sort of a swing property, and they weren't sure what was going to happen to it. It was on the docket to be maybe sold. Sotheby's was interested. It was unclear what would happen to it. And Brookfield Properties, as a real estate company, got excited about taking a step into the live entertainment world, and hence the marriage of that building, that site, with this opportunity to reimagine Phantom in an immersive way.
Well, I just described at the outset some of my memory from just having seen the show very recently myself. You were there. What do you want to tell people to prepare people about the experience that you and your team have created for them?
That's a really good question. How do you describe this show? If people know immersive theater, and many audience might know Sleep No More, that started here at the ART, that is kind of a choose your own adventure. That was a choose your own adventure. You could wander in your own time and space across, up here in Brookline, it was 40,000 square feet. In New York, it was like 80, 90,000 square feet. And we felt with Phantom, we wanted to deliver the story. We wanted to be kind of on the rails, so to speak, not off the rails. We wanted to, lead an audience and curate your experience. We also knew this is a musical. So the opportunity to feel the music, to have it emanating around you and, 360 experience, and to have live singing was going to be a signature. And live singing, not, from a Broadway stage 50 feet away, but literally 2 feet away from you.
Well, this is the best way I found to describe it after was it was a series of chamber concerts.
Yes.
Because you are this small group and you're moving from room to room. The cast is among you, barely any remove, just sometimes inches away. I was brushed by the Phantom.
Yes.
I was pulled by Christine to go down these stairs. How does that change the story as you crafted it this way to put people more intimately in what is happening in this world?
Yeah, I think it increases the level of experience. You can't detach and distance yourself. You are in it. You're breathing the same air. You're making eye contact. Christine sits down in her dressing room at her piano stool and looks to you, and you're a foot away. And she looks in your eyes and says, "Twisted every way." She confesses her complete soul that is in a crisis, or the Phantom sings Music of the Night. And I love that you say chamber concert, because I thought, what would it be like if 60 people sat in the darkness with candles and the Phantom sang to you, not just Christine, but to you, So that experience invites an audience to, frankly, have what I have all the time as a director.
Right.
When I'm in a rehearsal hall, I'm sitting 2 feet away from everything. And, it's that old thing of it's never as good as it is in the rehearsal hall. So for me as a director, it was like, how do I open up that experience to an audience where they feel like they are in it, with it? And in our case, we're not doing the whole Phantom of the Opera, right? We very deliberately call it Masquerade. It's a new work inspired by Phantom of the Opera, where the premise is you are invited as an audience member to the Phantom's private masquerade. You are dressed up, as you mentioned. You're dressed in your black, white, silver, formal cocktail attire. You wear a mask. And then you enter his mind. So that was also a lens into the story where you get to experience it from his viewpoint, where you get to see things that you've actually never seen before in the stage show.
And why is that important? Because if you look at the subject matter of the show, of the Phantom of the Opera, not Masquerade, maybe you can raise an eyebrow or two because he is a man who is detaining a woman, and we really don't know what's going on there, but we do learn more about that in Masquerade.
Yeah, I felt so inspired to empower Christine, who's the young ingenue, right? Not to be a victim in this, but rather position her as the most courageous, curious, enlightened young corps de ballet dancer, who has this spiritual soul and is this artistic soulmate to the Phantom. And she's the one who's not afraid to open the mask, or to not open the mask, take the mask off and look at what's behind the mask. So I was telling all the actresses, and there's 6 of them, we can get into that too,
Yes.
but there are 6 of them. I would say to all of them, play Christine like she's Joan of Arc. She's like the heroine in this story for this man who is disfigured at birth, who has a facial difference, who has been exploited as a freak at a carnival, who is a genius artist, who has never been loved ever in his life. And, she's the one that's able to say, I see you. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I see your genius. I want to know you, but you have to take that mask off, and that's hard for someone who's lived through that kind of trauma.
It's an extraordinary way into him. Let me just pause for a moment. You just talked about the circus freak, and we're led into the circus when we're given an understanding of what he came from. How did you find these acts? There is a man who does things with fire. And again, as you say, you're just inches away from these people. He lit himself on fire. He swallowed fire and then spit it back out. I've never, even for all the theater I've seen,
Yes.
I've never seen anything like it. How,
Yes.
Where and how did you find this person?
They exist. They are incredible. Downtown circus performers, club performers. It's a whole community of incredible artistry that do acts like the Fire Act. And in the carnival, I thought that was the chance for us to understand, what did the Phantom see when he was the freak sideshow, but, caught in his cage and peering through those bars. What was he seeing? So he saw this fire act. I had this idea of he saw a fire act because if you know the show, he uses fire. He's like a magician. He throws fire. The famous scene of fire in the stage show. So I thought, how did he learn about fire? Because he was at that circus, at that carnival, watching someone do a fire act, and he got that into his kind of toolkit. Same thing with the magical lasso. That's a big thing in the show, right? He's got this ability with the magical lasso. So we have a circus act that's doing a rope trick. So that was the idea of, what was he, against all odds, absorbing and taking, even the cape, right? There's a carnival barker with a black cape. I was like, he saw that cape, and when he escaped and kind of Madame Giry took him to the Paris Opera, he saw a black cape on a costume rack, and he said, you know what? I'm going to take that and make it my own this time. The person who exploited me, I'm going to wear that cape. So it was sort of the origin story of, where did the Phantom as a persona come from?
I'm speaking with Tony-winning director Diane Paulus about Masquerade, which is playing now in New York. What was it like to work with Andrew Lloyd Webber on this? And I'll give my own tiny little perspective. I spent a couple of nights with him in the spring for the Boston Speakers Series, and for a man who did a piece that's decades old now, he still has such affection and enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, he's a remarkable artist. I mean, so many works he's done that impacted me as a young person in the theater. I mean, Jesus Christ Superstar, probably top of the list, Evita. But look at what he was doing. I mean, making a musical about Jesus Christ, about Eva Peron, T.S. Eliot's poem about cats, Starlight Express, people on roller skates. He was so, I think we tend to think of Andrew Lloyd Webber, we're like, that man who's just like, the formula hit maker. And it's like, actually, no. he was experimenting and pushing the boundaries of musical theater subject-wise and form-wise. So to get to work with him and see his eyes light up when I said, we're going to do something that's never been done before, he was so up for that. And the amount of music that he created for this, right? They're all the hits that you know and love, but you are traveling in time and space through the 6 stories, and music is constantly accompanying you. So he created all these leitmotifs, and I'll never forget, we were late in previews, and I said, I need something more to take us from this room to that room. And he came up this whacked out kind of inversion of one of the themes of the show where you could hear kind of like rats scurrying in the background. And it was like a sound of something dropping on a xylophone. I mean, he was so up for the experiment of it. And also he taught me so much. Obviously he knows the show so well. So sitting with him and hearing all the stories of how he created it, the being inspired by Paganini, the historical violinist figure, and how that impacted him in the creation of the show. And then we sort of create an homage to Paganini with a live violinist in our show. So there were all these things that he was speaking to me about that were just these gems and jewels that I could grab and say, well, that we're going to put in the show, and that we can take, and let's keep opening the doors to things that maybe you weren't able to do that we could now finally give more airtime to.
Well, as you say, also belying the notion that here is this formulaic hitmaker, he's also having a resurgence right now. Cats is about to go back to Broadway as a drag ball. There's Your Phantom. Sunset Boulevard just had this amazing revival in New York. There are so many of his shows where a next generation of people, of creatives, are coming in and finding that there is deep resonance to today.
Yes. I think, again, it's a tribute to the fact that these shows have that capacity for reinterpretation because they're so theatrical. They're so out of the box, right? It's not like you have to impose something that just feels like it's trying to force something into something it's not. I mean, that's whacked out cats in a spaceship.
I remember
you know what I mean?
The first time I saw it, it's really all about cats.
It's really all about cats. And I think the genius of, Bill, who's my dear colleague, Bill Rausch, and his reimagination of this as a drag ball is, it's a new idea, but somehow it's meeting the material, right? And I think with Phantom, this idea of the love triangle between the Phantom and Raoul and Christine, and the idea of the masquerade. And we did a lot of research on 19th century masquerade balls and kind of the theatricality of being invited to a party and then seeing these theatrical pageants, kind of into the dark night of the party that you're taken to places you've never been before. Those are all in Phantom. So I think the resurgence is because it's in the work, and also Andrew, who is the living artist, is open to it. So really, kudos to him for being open to this next generation of exploration with his work.
Well, final question. As you just alluded, this is a giant jigsaw puzzle, which I didn't realize was happening until, as we end, we're in this great space where you can get a drink after the show. You can process everything.
Yes.
People are taking pictures everywhere. And then the room began to fill up. And I thought, well, there weren't this many people who were traveling with me from room to room. And that's when it dawned on me that there were multiple shows happening at the same time. How on earth do you do this without anybody having a sense of what's happening and to have cast members doing what? How does it all unfold?
I know. It actually broke my brain, to be honest. It was so complicated. This was the hardest thing I've ever done. So challenging, but also the most thrilling. I mean, basically, there's 6 shows a night. So pulses of 60 people are going through the experience, one after the other, And we have the whole thing kind of like a Swiss watch on a timer, so that everything is timed to the second. And it took, weeks and weeks of previews and beta tests and charts and a couple of amazing young math majors that I nabbed. I was like, I'm not good with charts. You're going to have to do this for me, so that everything is timed and moving through the space. So you're never aware, that this is going on in the whole building. But, we had to invent the technology for it. We have technology that is live mixing all the mics across 6 floors.
So you're talking about 6 Phantoms, for instance.
Yes, 6 Phantoms, 6 Christines, 3 Madame Giris, 3 Raouls, and then there's some blessed, incredible performers that do all 6 shows in one night.
1 fire eater?
1 fire eater, yes.
That's a show. That's a revelation in and of itself. When I finally realized what was happening. Yeah.
Yes,
well, congratulations. Yes. It would have melted my brain. It wouldn't have broken my brain. It would have melted it. You could ask the team every day they want to time out the show with me. I can never figure out the timing.
Yes,
exactly. You do the math. Diane Paulus, always great to see you. Congratulations on the show. It was so much fun.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Diane Paulus is a Tony Award-winning director and the artistic director of the American Repertory Theater. She's the director of Masquerade, the immersive adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera. It's playing on West 57th Street. To learn more, go to masqueradenyc.com.
Coming up, bases are loaded in Worcester, where poetry meets America's pastime at the National Baseball Poetry Festival. That's next, right here on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Everybody needs a little alone time now and then. That includes one Indian village known as the cleanest in Asia. Tourists who flock there are now banned on Sundays.
No tourists on Sunday?
Yes.
It's a good thing? Or?
So it's good for us because we have a time to go to church for service, for praying.
That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Standish Village in Dorchester's Lower Mills, providing assisted living residents with programs designed to help seniors stay sharp, social, and independent. Learn more at standishvillage.com/programs. And the Lyric Stage, presenting Something Rotten, a side-splitting mashup of 16th century Shakespeare and 21st century musical theater, now through June 7th at Lyric Stage Boston. Tickets at lyricstage.com.
And White Flower Farm, a mail-order plant nursery in Connecticut, offering garden plants, growing supplies, and gifts for gardeners. More at whiteflowerfarm.com.
Local stories, live radio, and breaking news at your fingertips. Download the new GBH News app on the App Store or Google Play.
I'm Henry Santoro in for Jared Bowen this Tuesday. This is The Culture Show. You've heard about the zen of baseball. How about the poetry of baseball? And yes, Casey at the bat does come to mind, the baseball poem of all baseball poems. But at Polar Park in Worcester this coming weekend, the crack of the bat from the Woo Sox will not be the only sound echoing through the stands. It's the National Baseball Poetry Festival, returning for its fourth year, bringing together writers, students, educators, and fans for a multi-day celebration that blends baseball's rituals with the art of storytelling. And we have Steve Biondolillo to thank for this. He is the founder of the National Baseball Poetry Festival and founder and president of Biondolillo Associates, a consulting firm focused on the nonprofit fundraising world and public health marketing, as well as large-scale special events like this one at Polar Park. Also joining us is Sarah Connell Sanders, a Worcester teacher, writer, and organizer of the festival's Youth Poetry Contest. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the hows and whys of how the National Baseball Poetry Festival was born. And Steve, this is all you.
Well, thanks for having us, Hank. So there's sort of two sets of substrate to the story.
Got it.
You know, one is my own relationship and involvement with baseball, and the other is my involvement with poetry. So you have to understand those two first. So on baseball, my father passed away when I was 6, but he'd been playing with us since we were 3 years old. And so, you know, first kid in the neighborhood to lose the dad, and you need a place to belong, right? And you need people to look at you and find a place for you. And it turns out I could play ball. And so sort of the older kids, the teenagers, the other dads always had me under wing, always involved with the teams, etc., right? So baseball, very important that way initially. And then I actually enter an orphanage when I'm 10 years old, where I live for the next 7 years. And as I arrived there, 800 boys, and then there were about 100 in my age group. And I walk in, I'm the top ball player. And there's nothing like arriving in an institution, right? And having something that immediately finds a place for you. So I'm attached to baseball. 14 years old, I make the varsity, things like that. That's the baseball side. So I'm attached to the sport, even though my book here, I don't know if anyone can see it, has the picture of a wrestler on the cover. I'm in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. We'll put that on the side.
Okay.
That's a different story. But because the first... Yeah.
And you should also be in the look-alike contest for Paul Simon.
Okay.
I could see that.
I'll go with that. I'll take that.
I mean, yeah, I would mistake you. If you were walking down the street, I'd say, there goes Paul Simon.
Is that right? Yeah. and I always hear Andy Garcia, but let's go with Paul Simon. I mean, at least the guy's a poet, right? I mean, he's a great
poet.
A great writer and a poet. So, and by the way, first and last poem in the book are baseball poems here, just so that you know. The book
written by you.
Yeah, written by me. With the poem, with the wrestler on the cover.
Got it.
And so then on the poetry side, at the school, I was raised in Girard College in Philadelphia, a school for fatherless boys, from 1848 to 1984. Memorization was a huge part of our education. And it was very rigorous. I mean, much more so than you can ever encounter in schools today. And so that comes into you and is ingrained in you. Then I wind up in university a student of Helen Vendler, who many people feel top 2-3 English language poetry and critics in all of history. And so a mesmerizing and wild experience in time, right?
Meant to be.
Meant to be, made me a poet if you think about it. And that's the substrate. What's the trigger? So it's 2020, 21. We're in the pandemic. I'm reading a magazine from the West Coast, and I stumble on a story on the Fisherman's Poetry Festival. And I go, what? I mean, how many poems about fish and fishermen? I could think of a couple, but what about baseball? I mean, we're talking about sports, whatever. Baseball, for goodness sake. That was the trigger. And took a couple of years to put all the pieces together, and we ultimately did.
And it was born.
The
National Baseball Poetry Festival
there it
was
is.
born. That is amazing. That's such a great story.
Right.
And you saw it through to fruition. And why Worcester?
Ooh, has to be Worcester. Well, of course, Casey at the Bat, which you've already referenced, was written by Ernest Thayer, born and raised in Worcester. And so how could it not be there? But if you think about it, Worcester also has a very rich history in baseball, from the 19th century industrial leagues to the first perfect game is pitched there, to one of the most elaborate Little League systems in the country. It's really a baseball town, all capped off by, of course, the Worcester Red Sox, the Woo Sox, who have the newest, shiniest, best-run AAA ballpark in America. How could it not? And Worcester's undergoing a renaissance. How could it not be in Worcester?
And I would imagine that Dr. Steinberg, who's running the operations over there, would be all over this.
He's been a fantastic supporter of this festival.
You have, you're not only a promoter of this event, you're also a participant, because you are a poet as well.
Correct.
And you have a poem titled In Centerfield.
I do.
Do you want to regale us?
Delighted. Takes a couple minutes, but let's do it.
Let's do it.
Never done it on radio.
Okay.
So let's do it. Name of the poem is In Centerfield. It happened on a summer day in 1965. Our softball season underway. The schoolyard was alive. I'd shagged fly balls in center field at least 1,000 times. The label on my glove had peeled. Like me, its age was 9. My dad had given me the glove the day that I was born. The gift outlived his hopeful love. By 6, my dad was gone. A boy without a father seeks a glade where he can grow. A place where nothing hurts or bleeds. A place where he feels whole. For me, that place was open sky on ground of black tar seal. While others tried in left and right, I thrived in center field. And so it came to pass that day my solace was revealed. With ease I'd made my umpteenth play, while others lurched and reeled. It melted through the sun's bright rays. I heard it, soft and clear. His voice, I heard it plain as day. His voice caressed my ears. My gift, the voice intoned right through the schoolyard din. My graceful body is my home. My home is deep within. The revelation kissed my face and soothed my wounds inside. It told me how I'd find my place. It blessed my fragile life. A boy without a father seeks a glade where he can grow, a place where nothing hurts or bleeds, a place where he feels whole. Now, I've lost my way a dozen times and tossed away some years, been tagged out by my foolish pride and gagged on my own jeers. I want to hear the voice again, to feel at home, to yield, purge vainglory and false pain, to be in center field.
You recited that from memory.
Thank you.
What, stunning, absolutely stunning. What is it about the Zen of baseball that lends itself so perfectly to poetry?
Wow, what a great question. You know, so baseball, if you think about it, is a bunch of different, interesting, opposite things, right? That really, as you think about life, like life is, it's a highly individual sport in the context of a team. It's a bucolic environment in the context of a city, right? Mm-hmm. It's a sport that's not compressed into a time frame. It unfolds like at the same pace that life does. In effect, there's you can't hurry it. The great philosopher and often and usually underrated philosopher, Snoopy from the Schultz comic Peanuts, said, "You can't hurry love or pizza, especially pizza." So what I want to do is build on that and say you can't hurry love, pizza, or poetry, because poetry is the thing that helps you process and work with the subject of love and the love of baseball. Right? So there's a lot going on there.
Part of the National Baseball Poetry Festival is the Youth Poetry Contest. And Sarah, this is where you come in. So what can you tell us about the contest? And you have a poem from one of the winners that you're going to read, correct?
That's right, I do. I am a middle school teacher in Worcester at Burncoat Middle School and an alumnus of the Worcester Public Schools as well. So it's been an honor to see our city really come into its own and become quite the baseball town. So this poem is by my student Nevin Doritu. Can I take it away?
Go right ahead. How old is Nevin?
Nevin is 12.
Let's go.
All right. The crowd was buzzing loudly as we gathered by the base. Our pitcher, Goofy Gubb, wore a grin across his face. He threw the ball so fast it whooshed just like a racing jet. A storm of swinging strikes, the toughest pitcher they had met. Then Mighty Michael stepped up to the plate, his helmet shining bright. He stood strong as a mountain, preparing for the fight. Our pitcher threw another whoosh. It glimmered in the sky. The ball soared high and far, just like a dove that loves to fly. We yelled out in the commotion as Mad Max ran down the field. His feet were flying fast. His cleats were keeping time. He slid into home safely, and the scoreboard told the tale. Their team had won the game at last. Our victory had failed. Written in honor of Casey at the bat.
He did a tremendous job.
Yeah, way to go, Nevin. But I've developed a curriculum as well to help other teachers participate and keep it a real light lift.
So take us out to the ball game. What will we encounter at Polar Park this weekend?
Okay, so the festival's bookended, first of all, with sort of receptions for the out-of-town poets. So Thursday night, there's a dinner for the out-of-town poets, and then Sunday morning, there's a coffee for them.
And it's a homestand for the Woosongs.
It's a homestand, and they're playing the Wilkes-Barre team, the Yankees AAA. So usually a lot of extra fun and excitement because of that, as we all know here in New England. And so the Friday kicks off with generative workshops, which means you can come and actually do some writing, right? There'll be prompts, kind of cool and fun prompts, and then you do some writing and some sharing, and that'll be that morning. Then we're going to have an inaugural music feature, and in the afternoon, early afternoon, and it'll be Dr. Charles himself, because Dr. Charles is, I think, the world's leading expert on baseball music. And so he's also a professor at Emerson College.
Right.
And so he'll be doing some lecturing and playing and performing for the audience.
And he loves to do this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is tailor-made for him.
Fenway misses him.
Fenway misses him, sure. And, he'd come, I suppose, from San Diego and the Orioles also, right?
Yeah.
He'd been all over the place.
Yeah.
So after that, we have a formal kickoff at the park, and that'll be the whole sort of city's sort of educational and civic and business and political establishment comes out to welcome the poets from around the country. And we'll have poets there from 18, 20 states, coast to coast. We're very strongly represented in California, out in the West, by the way. Arguably, maybe are where we have the most representation for whatever reason. So, and then that kickoff reception is followed by a ballpark tour, a game, and fireworks. Then the next day, so it's a wonderful kind of lineup of things.
It's a full plate.
It's a full plate. And then on the next day, it kicks off with a poets and publishers panel in which people can come and discuss how to get published, right? Everyone wants to get published. I mean, here's how. Listen to some of the experts tell you what they can do. And then that goes on to a poet-to-poet reading. All the poets from around the country do a big open mic with each other. That's followed by the youth event, where Sarah will be leading us. And Sarah does an amazing job. She's been for 4 consecutive years, just to be clear, the #1 leader of youth into this festival, which is important. She's Worcester-based, and we're forever grateful that she plays that role. And then after the youth event, we have a ball game, right? Another ball game, the only poetry festival in the world with 2 professional games of any type right in the middle of the festival, and then an open mic in the Canal District that night for everyone.
Tell me that Cooperstown knows all about the National Baseball Poetry Festival.
Thank God you just said that, Hank, because we're pretty sure they don't and need to. But they need to.
They need to.
Thank you.
They absolutely need to. And again, Worcester is the perfect city to pull this off in. The National Baseball Poetry Festival runs this weekend in Worcester, bringing poets, writers, and baseball lovers together. To learn more about the schedule and all the events, go to the National Baseball Poetry Festival's website. Steve Mondolillo is the founder and president of the National Baseball Poetry Festival. Sarah Connell Sanders is a writer and organizer of the festival's Youth Poetry Contest. Thank you both for coming in. And thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. The Culture Show crew was Max Chow-Gillette and Kate Dellis, as well as Chelsea Mers. Today's engineer, Bill Piacatelli. Brad Lewis produced our YouTube live stream today. If you ever miss us here on the radio, you can keep up with all things arts and culture by way of The Culture Show podcast. Just go to Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Henry Santoro. Have a great, great day. Hit it out of the park.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
GBH's All Things Considered is coming up this afternoon at 4 with market